All right, I'd like to call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Tiverton Town Council for Monday, February 24th, 2025. And before we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to welcome retired Army Major and retired Tiverton Police Sergeant Charles Mulcahy, and also the president of our local VFW post, to come up, say a couple of words, and then present the veterans flag for us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Town Administrator, and council members for allowing us this honor to add the colors of combat veterans and veterans from Tiverton and America, for that matter, to the council chambers. It's an honor and a privilege for our flag to fly here from now until eternity, as far as I'm concerned. So, sorry. Probably should have turned that off.
No worries at all.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, when it's most inappropriate, right? So it's an honor and a privilege to be here tonight. And at this time, Senior Vice Commander, pose the colors.
Commander, colors are posted.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Comito?
Present.
Councilor Hayden?
Present.
Councilor Janik?
Present.
Councilor Edwards?
Present.
Councilor Paull?
Present.
Councilor Perry?
Present.
Councilor Diamandouros is absent.
Thank you. All right, consent agenda. Acknowledge receipt of minutes from boards, commissions, committees. Planning Board 3, Conservation Commission 2, Personnel Board 1. Acknowledge receipt of reports. Treasurer Saurette. January 2025 budget and revenue reports. School Department year-to-date budget versus actual report, January 2025. Cemetery Commission 2024 annual report. Acknowledge receipt of correspondence. Letter from Bruce Randall requesting impact studies on all proposed housing developments. Town of Jamestown, resolution to request certain amendments to Chapter 15 of Title 46 of the General Laws. Newport City Council, invitation to the Newport, Rhode Island 69th Annual St. Patrick's Day Parade. Karen Ephraim, opposition to proposed construction of recycling business and industrial park. Approval of tax assessor abatements, $7,169.25. Approval of budget transfers, $5,000 from account 3330-6928 education seminar to account 3330-6735 software. $40,000 from account 5540-5101 DPW maintenance workers to account 5540-6648 equipment repair. Approve funding to advertise for bids to sell surplus police vehicles from police, fire, and DPW departments. Councilor Hayden, Gateway Signage Initiative, hold for casino fund appropriation meeting. Councilor Hayden, addition of life vac devices to safety equipment, refer to school, police, fire departments. Councilor Hayden, proposal for cooperative venture between NESC and Town of Tiverton, refer to the Recreation Committee. Would any councilors like to remove any items from the consent agenda? Councilor Janik.
I would like to remove C1 and 4.
Any other councilors? All right, I will remove C3. Councilor Janik. Oh, I'm sorry, before we do that, can I have a motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda? Do
Motion to approve the consent agenda, the remainder.
I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Janik. All in favor? None opposed. Councilor Janik.
We received a letter. Actually, this letter from Bruce Randall went to the planning board. And this is in regards to the number of housing units that have been proposed and permitted. And I think that he is not alone in some of the concerns for the sizes of the developments that have been proposed. I've heard a lot from people in the community saying, well, why can't the planning board just say no? And the fact is, the laws changed, and effective January 1st, there were significant changes in what the planning board can approve and what they cannot. So this gentleman did request that we do a comprehensive impact study before anything is approved. And although it's a great idea, the law doesn't allow for that. If people applying for planning and developments, they apply to the planning board, if it meets the housing criteria, they really can't say no. And people say, well, why so many? Can they just approve fewer? The state is really pushing for more housing and more affordable housing. So the developers come in and they say affordable housing, and that opens up many, many doors for them. And they have a lot more allowances. So we're actually seeing that happen quite a bit. The only way that that can change, because planning board can't change that, the only way it can change is if it changes at the state level. So if you feel that you're not happy with what's going on and with the large developments that are occurring, you really need to let your state representatives know. And if you're going to email them, that's probably the fastest way. Make sure you let the House Speaker know too, because that was part of his proposal, to push that through. They pushed it through quickly. There's probably things that needed to be changed, needed to be tweaked a little bit, but as anything that gets pushed through, there's things that really are not making a lot of city and towns happy. So I would suggest that you do contact your state reps, we have 4, and contact the Speaker of the House also. Anyone else?
Deb, I'd like to piggyback on that. Maybe we could get the state reps and the delegation to come back down here one more time, and we could speak to them on this issue. I've gotten a lot of phone calls also, and I keep saying the same things that you just said. Our hands are tied, and we really can't do anything about it. It's up to the state. So maybe we can get them to come down also and maybe do a presentation on what they can do and what they can't do.
Right, and I think sooner rather than later, Mr. President, because we
So-
really need this kind of talked about at this session.
I have already reached out to our state delegation, so they are prepared to come back in front of us. Just a matter of scheduling. Probably the 3:10 meeting would be my assumption.
Mine knows.
Yeah.
Just want to
Councilor
add to
Camino.
that also. So I've been following the zoning pretty close. I do believe exactly what Councilor Janik has said to be true. And that being said, I think the zoning and the planning, more so the planning, I've been following the planning a lot lately. They're doing everything they can to, I think, slow it down a little bit and try to keep everything under control and the building under control in Tiverton. But I really think they have their hands tied. It's difficult to control it all. And like I said, I've been following it closely, and I agree. I have to agree with a lot of stuff they've been doing to try to slow it down. So, again, a lot of it's out of our control.
Thank you.
But you can all help, letters to our reps.
All right. C4, Councilor Janik.
Okay, so this is a letter from Karen Ephraim, and she's talking about the industrial park. So she had come to us and wanted to meet with us. Were you able to schedule anything with her?
I'm glad you brought this up, Councilor Janik. So because of quorum issues, the entire council would be unable to meet, but I am looking for, I guess, 2 other councilors who would like to attend a meeting with me. Sounds like you're volunteering.
You just, yep, tell me when. Yep,
Okay.
yep.
So I have her availability. I'm going to reach out to her after this meeting so we can get that scheduled
That'd
for
be
this
great,
week.
because she sends us a lot of information, so
Yes,
I'd like to
she's very
address-
diligent.
I'd like to address that with her.
Thank you. And then for mine, on the Newport City Council invitation to the St. Patrick's Day Parade, that's the 15th. We, as elected officials, are invited to walk. I will be going. I'm sure the town clerk will be in attendance. No? Maybe not. Perhaps the town administrator, but I would like to encourage the remainder of the council to go as well. Great event.
Never been.
You should absolutely come. So with that, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve C1, 3, and 4.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Perry. Motion been made and second. All in favor? Not opposed. Okay, public comments, we have two. Paul Thru from the North Tiverton Fire District General Manager has a statement about something to do with the fire district merger.
Thank you.
State your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Paul LaRue, I'm North Tiverton Fire District, General Manager. I live in Westport. The North Tiverton Fire District Administrative Board requested that I prepare a letter for tonight's meeting to read to you all, to put on the record. Dear Council President Edwards and all members of the Town Council, I am writing at the request of the North Tiverton Fire District Administrative Board regarding the proposed resolution to merge the North Tiverton Fire District with the Stonebridge Fire District, which is on the agenda tonight. North Tiverton Fire District has a long history of fiscal responsibility, managing our utilities.
It's a trend this evening.
It is. Sorry. North Tiverton Fire District has a long history of fiscal responsibility, managing our utility infrastructure by maintaining and upgrading our pump stations, our water tank, and our pipeline system. We have recently added cellular metering system which can identify customer leaks at the source at their house. And it allows us to notify them within 24 hours, saving them a lot of money on their water bill. NTFD schedules water main replacements based on age and condition of our pipes. 8 years ago, we began creating a Geographical Information System, GIS, which inputs geostatistical data on all our existing pipelines into the GIS system. In order to perform the above-listed accomplishments, we had to procure 7 long-term loans. Also, our customers have paid higher water rates and tax rates. The North Tiverton Fire District is fiscally sound in its present configuration. Mr. Edwards stated in his last meeting that the town council may propose any resolution as they see fit. The town council has come to conclusions without any knowledge of how the fire districts operate or their financial standings. On its face, this resolution seems underhanded, or at the very least disrespectful of our fire district. I'm not trying to disparage the Stonebridge Fire District, but they have not managed their infrastructure in the same manner that NTFD has. Combining the two districts would divert our efforts away from maintaining our existing customer infrastructure. Finally, without a large infusion of cash, merging the two would make NTFD insolvent. Our customer base has made their voices loud and clear that they are against this merger. In consideration of the resolution tonight, I am requesting that the council reject this resolution as it is not good for our customers or the town of Tiverton. Signed by me today. Also, there's a statement in there that in combining the two water districts, we would gain more water. That is false. We buy all the water that Stonebridge can give to us, so we wouldn't get any more water. And I'd like to hand this letter over. I'll give it to the clerk.
Thank you. If you'd like.
I had a question for you, sir.
Yes, sir.
The 7 loans that you took out to maintain the infrastructure and whatnot,
Yep.
what's the balance of those loans?
$4.5 million.
Okay. And that's part of the fiscally sound,
Yep.
okay, 4.5 million, thank you.
Most of those loans were 40 years.
Councilor Janik.
My understanding is that you get USDA grants and loans, is that correct?
Correct.
So money that comes to you, either very low interest, and I understand
No.
pretty low.
No,
or
not the ones that we
grants.
have.
No, or grants. However, and that's for small entities. If we were to combine the two,
It affects our standing.
it would affect it.
Yes,
So we really don't want to turn away
correct.
free or lower interest loans.
Correct.
Thank you.
Counselor Camino?
Yes, so, not combining or being fiscally sound and your infrastructure being where it needs to be, you don't think it'd be possible to take your knowledge and experience to fix the other half of Tiverton?
In my past life, I ran 2 treatment plants
Mm-hmm.
with the Corps of Engineers. We would change out all the treatment equipment just about every 10 years.
Right.
I don't think equipment's been changed out since the 70s.
Well, that's what I mean. Your expertise and your knowledge is saying that we might need your
I-
leadership to fix the other half of Tiverton that has a water crisis.
In reality, if I was to take over that district, I'd close that water treatment plant and feed it all by Fall River.
So you wouldn't use any of our water?
I don't think I could afford it.
Okay.
I do have one more question,
Yes.
because you seem very knowledgeable, so appreciate you coming to speak.
Yep.
Why do you think it is that all the neighboring towns to Tiverton have one water district, but we have 2 plus
I don't
South
think you
Tiverton
guys
all
get
wells?
along very well. I don't know.
I'm just curious why
actually-
Portsmouth has 1, Newport has 1,
There's actually
Bristol
3.
has
We
1.
have 2.
Right, and we have 2, but we
No,
have
we
a
ha-
fraction of the population that they have.
There's 3 districts.
Right.
We have 2 of them.
Right.
Can't answer that. But
And you don't think
I-
there'd be
I
any
can't
benefit
speak
at all
to- as
to
to-
economy of scale and merging the, again, to
It
Craig's
would
point,
gain
your
us-
expertise could be needed for the rest of the town, and everyone deserves clean water and running water.
I'm kind of an old goat. I'm not going to be around much longer. So
Thank you.
I don't see it gaining anything than putting us at risk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is Pat Aguirre, Water and Zoning. Just
Water.
please state your name and address for the record.
Pat Aguirre, 130 Bay Street, Tiverton. I'd like to concur with this gentleman. Here's the thing, too. Well, for one, the reasoning on why we have 2, because years ago, when they put the water in North Tiverton, the rest of the town wanted nothing to do with it. The residents in North Tiverton paid for all of that themselves, okay? That's why there's 2. But I'd also like to concur with this gentleman. We don't need the problems that Stonebridge does. And if they need expertise, it's up to them to hire it and get, and quit being so inept. I mean, not for nothing. I see on Facebook all the time where they've got pipes breaking here, pipes breaking there. They're calling for help, and nobody's answering the phones, okay, from the Stonebridge area. Well, we in North Tiverton, when we have a problem, and this is from someone that had a problem even on our property, where the pipe broke, we called up and they were in there in no time at all. Apparently, that's not the case in Stonebridge. We don't need their problems. We don't need their old stuff that they have not reinvested in, like North Tiverton has. I fervently oppose a merger of such, because it's not going to do us any trouble, any good in North Tiverton. It's going to bring nothing but problems. And we have enough in North Tiverton, more that, this entity and years past have given us to us, and quite frankly, we're sick of it, okay? And that includes, if you want me to speak at the zoning board, I can do the same thing, They want to change all this zoning and whatnot down where we are. Don't these people realize there's actual families living in that area, that they want to put all this stuff? We have enough down in the Bay Street area. We've got those stinking tanks across the street from us, which, and I wish I could have found it, because I did have that years ago. Years ago in the 30s, when those tanks exploded, the council at the time said those tanks would never be rebuilt. Well, guess what? They're there, aren't they? They rebuilt them. It seems like everything with this town runs roughshod over North Tiverton, and we're sick of it. I mean, all this high-density housing, where does it go? North Tiverton. This town, and I'm talking all of this, the police department, the fire, can't afford what you have, and yet you keep adding more. All this high-density housing and whatnot. Do you really think it makes up for the additional schools, the fire department, the water department, the police department, and everything else? It doesn't cover that. It ends up back on the taxpayers in this town. It's getting to the point, it's ridiculous. It's like, it almost seems like if you make it miserable enough for us over there, that people will sell their homes and get out, so you can take zoning or whatever, can change that and do what they want with those properties. Well, you know what? We're not going anywhere. We've been through the ringer as it is with the contamination and everything else. We've had it. We've had enough. Isn't there anyone in this town, it's supposed to be a democracy, that actually asks the taxpayers, even with this merger? You know, this gentleman's here standing up for us. He's the head of our water department. So if they want to know how the Tiverton residents feel about it, in North Tiverton, ask us, have a vote on it. But they don't do that. It's just a few people on different committees and this and that are there, and they just change our lives willy-nilly with no consideration whatsoever. They just don't. They don't care. I mean, just like you're saying, oh, you have no choice with the high-density housing. Really? I don't see Little Compton being pressured to put in high-density housing. So why is it that Tiverton accepts it all? Tell me that. Who decided, okay, we're going to make North Tiverton into a mini metropolis, but South Tiverton can stay nicey-nicey, but all of our stuff can lower their taxes with their businesses and whatnot. So who benefits? All of Tiverton gets the benefit, yes, of the taxes. But they don't pay the price and inconveniences that North Tiverton does. Not anywhere close. And that's my point. I've had it. You know, I read in the paper, Secundit Times, and I know, I'm rambling on. Secundit Times, there was about a month and a half ago a thing in there. One thing at the top is saying that, you know, the Tiverton schools are going to abide by the new chapter Title IX law, okay? Right below it, they're saying, oh, well, you know what, our student population is declining. Well, maybe that's why. Did they ever think of that? So it's just, I'm just totally disgusted with this town, and I'll be honest, my family's been in that same house for generations. My kids and my children are number 6. And if it wasn't that, I'd be so out of here because I'm so sick of it, really sick of it. And not only in Tiverton, what's going on in Providence with that bridge and all that, it's just, this state, we need Doge, okay? That's what we need.
All right, so I'm just, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Okay, moving on. Appointments and resignations, Cemetery Commission, 5-member board, 1 vacancy. We have 4 applicants. We interviewed 2 the last time, Madam Clerk?
1 and 3.
1 and 3, okay. So before we move on to the appointment, is Abigail Pimentel present? Okay. How about Barbara Murray? All right. Come on down.
Good evening, Council.
Thank you. Just a quick question for you. Why would you like to be on the Cemetery Commission?
Why I would like to be on is I have an extensive background in grief and project management. I'm an engineer currently, 41 years at Electric Boat, have a lot of project management, served on a lot of nonprofit boards. Currently, I'm the president of one of the nonprofits in Cranston. Used to dealing with conflict, customers. But personally, I think the best thing I could do is be empathetic to people in this situation, which is very touchy and very, very personal. So someone I have a grief ministry. I have experience doing celebrations of life with Memorial Funeral Home. I was trained extensively in that background. I do that on the side besides an engineer, right? But I am getting close to my retirement, so I thought it would be time to step up and serve my town. I've been a lifelong member. My parents have always been part of the town and helped out a lot, and just thought it was time for me to step up and do my public service for the town.
Thank you. Have you attended any of the meetings by chance?
I have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the council? All right, thank you. So with that, so we're not kicking this out, is there a motion to waive our policy and appoint this evening?
There's some other people here on the list.
We interviewed them at the last meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Motion to waive the policy and appoint this evening.
Motion made. Do I have a second?
I am in favor of the motion.
Thank you. Councilor Perry. All in favor? None opposed. Okay. What is the council's pleasure? I think we have 4 fantastic candidates here, so.
Yeah, it's always difficult when you have so many people willing to volunteer and there's only one vacancy. Are we going to go through the names and all kind of vote, or what's the...
Just looking for a motion for,
I will make a motion to appoint Robin Sodoma to the Cemetery Committee, appointment ending 4/15/26. And that is with humble thanks to the others that applied as well. And I do believe there's a potential for another opening coming up on that in April.
I give my support to the motion.
all right, motion's been made in second. Any discussion?
I would just like to say, I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand. We don't often get so many candidates, someone that want to be involved, and there's so many needs in the town, so we can only select one person. So for those who are not selected, please keep us in mind. There are other boards and commissions that still have vacancies, and as Councilman Paull said, there may be another opening coming up in a couple of months. Thank you for applying, everyone.
Councilor Camino.
Yeah, so can we do another nomination, or have to vote on that one first?
You could do, if you want to do it that way, you could do that. You could do another nomination. and
Okay.
then When you take the roll call, the person has to state the name of the person they're supporting.
Okay.
I'd like to nominate Melissa Napier.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any other nominations? All right, nominations are closed. So now I guess we got to do a roll call vote.
So when the clerk asks, when the clerk calls your name, please indicate whether you're supporting Ms. Sodoma or Ms. Napier.
All right, Madam Clerk.
Counselor Comito,
Miss Napier?
Counselor Hayden,
Miss Napier.
Counselor Janik,
Ms. Napier?
Counselor Edwards,
Can I go last as the president?
Counselor Paull,
Ms. Sodoma?
Counselor Perry, Counselor Edwards.
At the risk of, I guess, this failing, I guess I will support Ms. Napier. Otherwise, it's 3-3, and then we have to go through it again. Correct. Okay.
How many is, declare the appointment of Ms. Sodoma, Ms. Napier? 4-3.
All right. So the Ms. Napier was appointed 4-2. And again, nothing against any of the other applicants. I think this is one of the toughest decisions this council has to make.
As Councilor Janik said, typically, it's 3 vacancies, 1 person. Waive the policy and vote, so it's never easy. But I do appreciate that you guys all stepped up.
And if there is a vacancy in April, Madam Clerk, would it be possible to reach out to the others to let them know to reapply? Thank you. All right, next item is the Semiquincentennial Commission. This is to replace the 1 council member. Myself, I asked to be removed from this, given the volume of work that the council has had. So would anybody on the council like to replace me?
I would like to, but I do have one question up front.
Councilor Hayden.
There's a meeting on tomorrow night, which I have another obligation for, and I'm also going to the personnel board meeting before that, so I cannot make the meeting tomorrow night. So as long as someone can sit in my place for that one meeting, then I can take it from there. But I don't want to not make it and miss out.
I don't think all the meetings are mandatory.
They're not.
Yeah, okay. And they're not always on Tuesdays, right?
Would they have a quorum?
They will.
They will have a quorum, and in this particular case, the Quincentennial Commission did not have the council member required to be the chair of the committee. So they can proceed and appoint a chair to that
Wonderful.
committee.
You just have to pronounce it.
Yeah, I can't pronounce it, so.
Semiquincentennial.
250. So yes, I would accept that appointment. I just want to make sure I can put in the effort needed to,
Thank you. All right, Board of Licensing, discussion and possible vote. Joe Souza, RetroXpo, requesting special event permit for Comic-Con style event at Longplex Family and Sports Center with local artists and vendors on April 5th, 2025, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., subject to meeting all legal requirements. Board of Licensing, we do have to have them come up, correct? Okay, so Mr. Souza or a delegate? There he is. Nope. There he is. I saw him moving, so. Yeah.
Good evening.
All right, thank you. So, councilors, anybody have any questions? The application was in our packet. Councilor Janik.
I do. You've done this in the past.
This would be our fourth event,
So-
correct?
I'm sorry. yeah.
Our fourth event, correct.
Fourth event. So this seems like it's all in place the same way?
Yes,
Same
ma'am.
number of people, hours?
Absolutely.
And that all worked out okay?
I feel so.
Last time? Okay.
Okay, any other councilors? Not a public hearing, right? Okay. With that, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the special event permit, subject to meeting all legal requirements, and what's the final part? Because there's the lawsuit? Nothing? We don't have to worry about it? Okay.
So moved.
All right, motion been made. Do I have a second?
I back the motion.
Thank you, Councilor Perry. Any discussion? All in favor? All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is, again, Board of Licensing, Alison Murphy, Green Kids Consignment LLC, requests approval of a special event permit for children's consignment sale at Longplex Family and Sports Center from April 30th, 2025 through May 4th, 2025, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., subject to meeting all legal requirements. And again, this is a repeat of an event that has been done for several years here.
Yes.
So, any questions from the council? Councilor Janik.
Can we do, because there are two, they're the same, they're just different dates?
Correct.
You want me to just
can
announce
we
what
do
the other one
them?
is? Okay. So in that case, the second item is Alison Murphy, Green Kids Consignment LLC, requesting approval of a special event permit for children's consignment sale at Longplex Family and Sports Center from October 1st through October 5th from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., subject to meeting all legal requirements. Any additional questions from the council?
No,
Councilor
just a
Janik.
comment, you've been doing this for a number of years.
Yes, ma'am.
So all of this is all same?
Absolutely the same,
Everything's
yes.
worked well, it's been well attended?
Phenomenally, yes. It's a great community event.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve 7B and C as stated in the agenda.
Do I have a second?
I lend my support to the motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Thank
All right.
you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, without objection, I'd like to pull forward item 9A, which is the discussion from Mega. Just because the gentleman's here, I figure we'll get him moving before we get into the contentious subject of the zoning. So, thank you, Mr. Semino, for coming back. We all have a letter in front of us here. We asked Mega to take a look at what the shift to automated trash and recycling would look like. For reference, this would be an annual increase of $130,000 on the existing contract. And the town would have to, of course, purchase the rollaway bins. We do have some capital, so that's something we would be able to do and not force the residents to buy their own new bins. And then we can look at transitioning away from the tiny recycling bins with trash flying anywhere. So before I suggest a motion, does any member of the council have any questions for Mr. Semino? Councilor Janik.
So 95 gallons is a very large container. There are a lot of people who are concerned that that would be very difficult. Too large for them. People say they're on wheels, but they're on two wheels, correct? You have to tip them. I'm a healthcare worker. I work with people who are high risk for falls. I can see this as a major falling obstacle, a huge fall risk. So what options are there for our elderly and people who would have difficulty?
We're open to 65 gallons also.
That's still very large.
Cost-wise, this is the high end, obviously, because the 95 is more than the 65, so. It'll only be a reduction from the rates we provided, so. But as I said at the last meeting, whether it's 2 or 3 or 400 smaller 65-gallon costs that we can swap out after we distribute the 95s for the elderly or disabled. If we need more than that, we need more than that, you know.
So you could do some 95 and some
Correct,
other, is
correct.
there another option? 65 is still big.
65 is the smallest. There is a 35-gallon, but our truck operation, it's too small. The grab fingers that come out, it just falls through the fingers and it's not tight enough. So 65 is the smallest we can do, or the 95s.
So what are the options for someone who just cannot handle a container of that size?
Right now, like I said, the 65 is the smallest, so I guess it depends on how many we're talking here, you know what I'm saying?
Could you possibly get a couple of those containers and bring them to our senior center
Absolutely.
to see the difference between
Correct.
95 to 65?
Yeah.
And maybe even that smaller one?
Yeah.
And see if,
I'd say put it out less often if it's not full, obviously, but that doesn't help them putting it out. If it's too large, it's too large, whether it's half
exactly.
full or
Let's
full.
at least see before, to kill all the rumors that somebody can't handle it, let's see if there's.
Correct.
If they can at least, I know if they don't have a lot in it, the elderly might have a lot of trash in it or recyclables in it, might be a little bit lighter, they might be able to balance it.
Right.
As opposed to carrying a tote that could be a little heavy for them also. Maybe if they get used to just, all you have to do is tilt it and roll it, it might help, I don't know. But maybe if we can at least get them to try it,
That's worth a try.
and maybe
It's the
they might
hill,
feel a
it's
little
the snow,
better.
it's the weather that
Yes.
usually adds to it. Usually on dry conditions, there's usually a way to do it, they figure it out, but it's the outside elements that
Yes.
hinder them.
I think it would help if we could get a couple of those totes over
Absolutely,
to the
absolutely.
senior center.
Thank you, Counselor.
Actually,
Counselor Perry.
maybe you could bring a couple of them here too and
Yep.
set them up in here.
Yep.
People
Yep.
coming in and out, paying their tax bills and
Absolutely, yeah.
take a look at them in
That's
here
the
also.
best way, is they can visualize the sizes of them.
So, for the council, just so we're on the same page here, my suggestion for the motion would be to direct, since this has been me kind of run a point on this, myself and the administrator to work together to, number one, enter into negotiations with Mega to explore this option, and then number two, come back to this council with a defined plan for communicating to the residents what the proposed change is, and then accepting feedback for which residents would prefer a smaller bin. In my opinion, this has been long overdue. We are one of the few communities left, both in the state and also in greater New England, that does not have automated collection. And our litter commission has been battling for years to try and get something, because those smaller recycle bins, all it takes is a stiff breeze, which we have pretty much every other day here in Tiverton in the wintertime, and you have recycling scattered down the street.
Mr. President,
Counselor,
I would like to make a motion to approve Mr. Town Administrator and yourself to enter into negotiations with Mega Disposal and the presentations and the different proposal options discussed in the agenda.
do I have a second?
I affirm the motion.
He's going down a list of ways to do this. So, any further discussion or questions for Mr. Semino?
Thank you very much.
Nope. All right, all in favor?
So before we
Oh,
vote,
Counselor Janik.
so you will investigate all
Yes.
that and come back to us?
to the council. Yep.
And then we'll vote on, okay.
We will vote on if we're going to purchase the bins, at what specific cost, knowing the number of bins, projected start date,
We
communication
can get
plan.
the carts here sooner, too. We don't
And
have
that
to
the
wait.
seniors are going to be happy with it.
Correct.
Because they're bringing the trash out a certain way now. A lot of them I've seen don't have wheels at all, so it actually helps them. You know, I've seen like the metal cans, and it's like now you're gonna have two wheels, and whether you go with the 65 one, there's benefits, but the way they're doing it right now isn't ideal either.
Some of those
I don't think
existing
anyone's
bags get
satisfied with
pretty
the current
heavy,
way
yeah.
either, so it's like, I don't think we're gonna find an ideal way to get rid of trash, but an automated way that's more streamlined would be more effective and cost effective for the town
Yep.
and its residents.
All right, any further discussion?
Yeah.
Counselor,
Mr. President, I'll just add to that with Counselor Hayden. I did receive a few calls on it. There's concern for some of the hills in town. How stable are those bins?
Pretty stable. They got some weight on the low, the way they're designed. there's some lower weight to it, so it's not a driveway that's tilted, or it's usually the road and the traffic that become the hazards than the road height incline itself, you know what I'm saying? As long as it's not left out on the roads and it's closer to the curb, then should be no problem.
Yeah, let's take a drive down Horizon on your way out of here and let us know the trash cans
coming up here.
won't be down in the bay, because that's like, you know,
Yeah.
we got that in some
Well,
spots.
that's what's good about the serial numbers on them, you know who they belong
You
to.
can get
you know?
you might need a brick
Well, you
or something.
distribute
I don't
them
know.
every week,
Yeah.
you know?
All right, any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor? None opposed?
Council President?
Yes.
I'd like for you to move up 9B. I do have the person here from Freedom Energy Logistics.
All right, without objection, I'd like to move up 9B as well. We'll get to the zoning, guys, don't worry.
Hi, my name is Bart Fromuth. I'm from Freedom Energy Logistics. And I come before the town council tonight. Thank you for your time and the privilege to talk to you about community choice aggregation, which many of you may know or not know about. Essentially, community choice aggregation is a town-enabled buying group. It's an aggregation of all electricity ratepayers within a given jurisdiction that the legislature here in Rhode Island has enabled you to compete essentially with Rhode Island Energy on electricity prices. So we've got, of the 30-plus towns in Rhode Island right now, we've got 12 active aggregations. We're working with Westerly to launch the 13th. And essentially what happens is, as you've been paying attention at your homes, the Rhode Island energy rate goes up and down from 10 cents a kilowatt hour to 17 cents a kilowatt hour, back to 10 cents again in the summertime, and then we're I think at 16.8 right now, scheduled to go back to 10 in a couple weeks' time in March. So the program essentially tries to deliver cost savings to the residents, and we've got 140 communities that have done this in the state of Massachusetts. We've got 70 communities that are doing this in the state of New Hampshire, and Rhode Island has followed suit with this. So again, the reason the town's involved is because there is your ability as town councilors to vote your community into this program. Now that doesn't come without some issues that residents might bring up because it's an opt-out program. So if you decide to move forward with this, all ratepayers on the Rhode Island Energy platform would be into the program unless they affirmatively opted out. And that's one of the things that I answer in terms of pushback from a lot of communities. So it's not for every single community. There are a number of communities that I go before that decided to decline moving on this. But the savings can be pretty significant, between 10 and 25% for the ratepayers. The savings are more pronounced during the winter months when the rates are higher. They're less pronounced during the summer months. The other thing that I think is quite attractive about this program is the rate stability. Again, because of the way that Rhode Island Energy is regulated, they can only put out electricity rates for 6 months at a time. That means it's very volatile with the marketplace. A number of our communities will go longer-term contracts to keep rate stability for their residents. So they might sign a 3-year agreement at 10 cents a kilowatt hour, and that way for your residents that are on fixed income, they're not looking at doubling their energy budget every 6 months. Now, my firm specializes in making this a turnkey process for our communities. We handle all the education materials. We hold the public hearings that would be required under statute to educate your residents here in Tiverton. We also help the community put together your aggregation plan. Now, some communities will focus on maximizing rate savings. There are some communities that use this as a vehicle for savings plus some renewable content. Most of the communities we work with just focus on maximizing the savings benefit for their ratepayers. If you're in the community and Tiverton decides to launch and move forward, you can leave at any time. You can leave on 30 days notice, and our firm handles all of the opt-outs. So let's say that you're visiting family in Florida when the opt-out notice comes to your home. You get back, you say, what the heck is this program I've been enrolled into? You call up us, you go up to the Tiverton website, you can call up Rhode Island Energy. You have multiple ways to opt out and go back to the Rhode Island Energy platform if you choose to do so. We've been doing this for over a decade, and our opt-out rate is about 7.5%. meaning that communities have been doing this time and time again for multiple cycles. Only about 8%, less than 8% of the community actually opts out and stays out of the program. So it's got quite a significant track record of adoption. The vast majority of communities that we do this with, go on to renew their contracts multiple times because it is a success for the ratepayers. The idea being, not that Rhode Island Energy is bad, but they've, not got the best deck of cards in terms of being able to lower electricity prices. So this allows the town to get involved with that through these jurisdictional buying group aggregations, if you will. And again, the track record's pretty significant. Looking back just to our Massachusetts communities, which includes the city of Boston, city of Springfield, city of Lowell, the savings since we started this program with our partner company, Colonial Power Group, it's been about $600 million for ratepayers in these programs. So they are pretty significant. But again, it's not without the issues of the automatic enrollment unless you opt out of the program. That is a sticking point that a number of communities struggle with. And the one thing I say for that, in terms of kind of trying to put it in perspective, is the program is supposed to give Tiverton and other communities an alternative default service, alternative last resort price, if you will, similar to Rhode Island Energy. So it has all the same characteristics as Rhode Island Energy program, meaning that if you just moved to Tiverton last month, no one asked you if you wanted to be on Rhode Island Energy, you automatically get opted in to the Rhode Island Energy standard offer program. So Tiverton's community choice aggregation would take the place of that. So when you start in the program or you move to Tiverton, you would automatically opt into that program until you decided to affirmatively leave the program. And the reason they have that mechanism is we've had opt-in aggregation here in Rhode Island since 1999. And unfortunately, the cost per customer acquisition for those programs is about $150 per customer. So the high rate of customer acquisition makes it untenable from a savings perspective to compete with these large buying groups versus Rhode Island Energy. But if we have the opt-out mechanism, we don't have to rebuild that into our pricing, and therefore we're able to give significant discounts versus the Rhode Island Energy standard offer rate.
Councilor, you want to go first?
Sure. So you said there was 13 Rhode Island cities or towns?
Yes, right now.
They're not listed in here.
They're not listed in there. So we do have one competitor in the state, a company called Good Energy. They work with Providence, Newport, Middletown, Bristol, Barrington, and I think maybe Warwick and a few others. We have Westerly as our first client here.
So you have one in Rhode Island?
We have one in Rhode Island,
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
That's a little different.
Yeah, but we have...
Same concept.
Same concept. It's a new program, and all of those communities are in one buying group together.
Okay.
And so, they've stopped essentially moving forward marketing that program. So we came into the state to offer to communities that hadn't moved forward with it yet. So Western is our first signed customer in this program, moving forward with it. But we do have, as you can see, the elongated list in Massachusetts and another 13 communities in New Hampshire that are our clients.
And then the 7 to 8% that are opting out, what are their reasonings for opting out if they're getting a better price on electricity?
So some people decide to opt out and just do this themselves with other third-party suppliers. You do have choice at your home right now. There's a list on the Rhode Island PUC website. Other people just feel like, hey, I don't like, I'm just being honest, I don't like the town council telling me I got to go to this program. I've been buying from Eversource or National Grid or Rhode Island Energy for years, and that's just who I want to be purchasing from. And
What
so
was that website you just mentioned? PC?
the Rhode Island Public Utilities Commission
okay.
has a list of third-party suppliers that are able to sell to homes already. But if you take a look at the statistics here in Rhode Island, we have about 85% of our commercial industrial users that buy from someone besides Rhode Island Energy for their electricity needs. But if you take a look at the residential and the small commercial, only about 20% buy from someone besides Rhode Island Energy. And a big reason for that is because third-party suppliers have a history and reputation for these kind of bait and switch offers. Well, they'll say, hey, I'll save you, 30 cents, 30% off of your Rhode Island Energy rate for 3 months or 6 months. You stop paying attention to the bill, you pay attention 7, 8 months later, and you get most of that savings back, and they'll usually entice you with like an American Express gift card or something like that. So there's a lot of customer service issues or customer protection issues that this program also protects against, because the town council, being the lead on this, working with someone like us, would make sure that that you had a program ready to go as soon as this contract expired, or sent the customers back to the utility, as it were.
Thank you.
Councilor Hayden.
Appreciate the information in the presentation.
Sure.
Are you negotiating electricity rates?
Yes.
Do you do natural gas?
Unfortunately, my company does, but we can't do that for this program. Rhode Island has not authorized community choice aggregation for natural gas at the residential level.
Okay. And then what's the lowest amount of savings you've provided to, let's just say, this huge list you have for Massachusetts and New Hampshire? What's the lowest savings that you've ever provided?
So this program,
Like worst case scenario savings,
No, so worst case scenario over a contract, there could be a point in time if you sign a long-term contract where you'll be above the utility for a 6-month stretch. That has happened. In terms of what's the lowest savings someone's had over the life of a contract, I couldn't tell you that, other than to tell you our savings track record has been across all of our customers. We've been helped by the fact that during the outbreak of the war in Ukraine back in 2022, utility rates in Massachusetts went all the way up to 36 cents a kilowatt hour. We had a lot of long-term contracts in place at that point in time at 9 and 10 cents. And those really helped to throw our numbers into what I would call kind of an unrealistic expectation.
Sure, it's skewed due to that.
Skewed.
But what about you're negotiating the rate on the actual supply of the electricity, but do you negotiate the delivery charge as well?
Unfortunately, we can't do that. So
Because when I get my bill, my delivery charge is higher than my supply charge, and I'm sure everyone else's is too. So that's like the huge sticking point.
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah, so that definitely can be true in the summer months. You'll see that there's a little bit of a flip flop. This past winter, the Rhode Island energy rate was about 65% because it was a 17 cent per kilowatt hour charge, and then I believe the transmission distribution at that point in time were about 11 cents. So your all in was about 28 cents a kilowatt hour.
So you're honing in specifically on the kilowatt and the supply.
On the kilowatt and the supply. So if you take a look at where we would have been, where we have been with our communities versus where the Rhode Island energy rate was the last 2 cycles, you're talking about for the average homeowner, which is about 1,000 kilowatt hours a month for 12 months, it's about a $390, $400 take home at the end of the year for the program. We average around 9.5 cents for the year, and that would have a favorable outcome versus the average rate for Rhode Island Energy, which again has been around 17 cents for the winter time, 10 cents for the summertime.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Councilor Paull. Councilor Perry.
Do you buy green energy?
We can. So part of the program that we have, and a lot of our communities take advantage of this, is they offer the default rate, like kind of the standard offer rate that we're providing is the maximized savings rate. But then we have maybe 2 or 3 opt-in options from the options that every homeowner is provided. And you can opt in to a higher green inclusion rate. It's going to cost more money, and a lot of times if you go 100%, there's not going to be savings versus Rhode Island Energy, because the 100% option is usually more expensive than the utility option. But there is an option for that. And then some communities that we work with will build in a mandatory 10% or 20% green inclusion on the base rate. And so there still can be savings there, just not as drastic as they would be without the green inclusion.
Councilor Paull, any
No, I'm
questions?
good.
Okay.
They got me.
I have one.
Sure.
So obviously you guys aren't doing this for free.
Correct.
How do you guys make money? Are you marking up the kilowatt hours basically? Is it
Yeah,
pass through?
so
Okay.
great question. So the way we get paid is our rate is built into the per kWh rate that the town selects to serve the community. So let's say that we get Tiverton a 10-cent rate. Your rate inclusive of our fee would be 10.1 cents. So it's 1/10 of a cent per kilowatt hour on top of the supply rate that the town selects. Now the good news there is that we don't get paid. There's no impact on your general fund in terms of paying us anything up front. So let's say you decide to move forward with this just to investigate, and you hire us. You're signing a 5-year commitment that if Tiverton does move forward with community choice aggregation, that you move forward with us as your vendor, and then we affix our fee to an on-flow rate. But let's say that we get through the PUC process, you get approved, The town council decides this isn't for us a year down the road. There's no breakup fee, there's no obligation to pay us for not moving forward. So you can investigate this, kind of get all the way up to the altar, and then decide not to get married to the program, and there's no cost to Tiverton or your residents.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, now what everybody's been waiting for. Continuation of the public hearing as advertised for the summary of zoning ordinance amendments. I know they're coming. So just to remind everybody, this is a continuation of the public hearing, so the public hearing is still open. What I'd like to do to expedite this process, since I think we got through some of the more contentious items, is ask if any member of the public would like to speak on any of the articles. That's Article 4, Section 1 through 13, Article 5, Sections 1, 2, and 4, Article 6, Section 10, Article 7, Section 2, and Article 16, Section 5. My intent is to have us move on this as a block so that we don't inadvertently not have a use table. All right. Pat Aguirre, just remind us your address.
130 Bay Street, Tiverton.
Thank you.
The zoning and the planning needs to leave us alone down there, okay? I mean, not for nothing, they want to change the zoning, the planning, this, that, and the other thing, when actually, Bay Street, here's a great example for you. When it needs fixing, the town doesn't own it, so they say that it belongs to the state. The state doesn't want to own it because they say it belongs to the town. And it all comes back to the contamination issues, which the council is very much aware of. That affects us with everything, that contamination, including Bay Street, with either entity not wanting to own it, but yet the town plows it, okay? So, it also even affects the wastewater issues with the sewerage. I'm gonna tell you, like Bay Street where I live, they'll make me tie into that pipe that goes across there. They're not gonna force people on the side streets, because to me, it's turned into a waiting game, okay, for the town. Because they know darn well that under Connecticut, under Judson, under A. Connell, there is so much contamination, and that the town is responsible to get rid of, unlike on the property owners' personal property. So it seems like what they're doing there, like I live at the bottom, very bottom of Connecticut Street. I'm gonna have to tie in. The neighbors above me don't until the houses are sold or whatever, and it's not even tying in. So it's like the town is playing a waiting game, because when a house is sold or changes hands, you got a year to put one of those above-ground septic systems in or whatever, right? So
Potentially, you'd have to.
no, that's not potentially,
Regulation.
that's
Yeah, but
what's
that doesn't
happening.
have anything to
When
do with
homes
zoning.
sell, they have to put in a different septic system because there were so many cesspools down there.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's nothing, doesn't have anything to do with zoning, I don't believe.
I think it does, because it seems to me like they
It's not
want
changing.
to
Your
put
zoning's
it on.
not changing.
Mine is on Bay Street. Across the street from me is,
Yeah, but
that,
okay, I'm sorry.
across the street from me, they're changing it. Where the tanks are, near the railroad tracks and all that, little triangle, whatever you want to call it, that they want to change. The property that belongs to Peggy Maderas.
Mrs. Medeiros.
Yes.
And I believe Mrs. Medeiros had a conversation with our planner and our zoning, planning board about her property, and I don't think she has an issue with it.
Well, what she had an issue with is she wanted it to stay residential, but apparently the problem.
It never was residential, that's what I mean, her property never was residential.
I don't know.
Right, so there's
That's what
nothing
she said at
changing
some of
that-
the meetings, and I'm her
I know.
neighbor, that's what she had told me.
I know,
That for
but we
years
did,
they paid taxes
we did a little
on
bit of
residential.
research for her, and we looked into her property with the proper authority, and her property was never residential to begin with.
Now, how about the property that did have a house on it, that's right, like in front of.
The one that
of
burned
Peggy's?
down years
Yes.
ago. I'm not a
That had to have been residential because there was a house there.
Well, not necessarily, could have been non-conforming.
It-
Could have
yes.
been
Yeah.
non-conforming.
And I
You could
believe
put a
it was
house on a commercial
non-conforming.
lot, could have been non-conforming. So that would be a non-conforming lot of record. So you would have a residential house on a commercial property. That happens. We have other lots in Tiverton that have that. Just because there's a house on it doesn't mean the underlying zone is residential. It could be a non-conforming
I
zone.
think it's non-conforming because of the size of the lot, not because it was commercial.
Well, it could be- or
it
by
could-
use.
Or it could also go in the other direction,
In fact,
too. Like,
Peggy's
for
house was
instance-
also moved from where it was, which was more across from where my house is, after those tanks exploded. That's when they moved it to where it is now.
Yeah, and it could also go in the other direction. So for instance, on Stafford Road, most of that area is zoned residential, and you have businesses that are there that have been there, since before zoning was a thing in town, so.
All I'm saying is I'm so sick of this, so sick of the changes you just want to make down there. And I'll go back to the water, even to that. I mean, there are conflicts of interest there. There are, with you, with Mr. Edwards, our representative, with your mother on the board. It's like, you know what? Keep your problems in Stonebridge. We have
Well,
enough in North
just
Tiverton.
restrain a little bit far from the topic here, but just for your own edification, and the clerk has a copy of it, when that comes up, I will be not here at the table because of that conflict of interest. So
Well, that's a good thing.
just so we're clear on that. But that's, again, we're straying off topic from the actual zoning piece that we're supposed to be
But the
having a
zoning
public
piece,
comment on
like I
here.
said, people down there, we don't need anything else down there. We don't. We don't even need any more residential in North Tiverton, never mind.
Mrs. Young, but that's her, it's Mrs.
I know
Medeiros'
that-
property to do what she wants with.
I understand.
Right,
When
so
I
it-
talked to Peggy last week, she
Right.
told me that they told her point blank they wouldn't change it to residential so she could sell it to that guy that wanted to build
Well,
houses
it's so,
there.
it's not, she sat and met with our planner.
Fine, I wasn't aware of that.
Okay, well, I'm trying to explain it so you have all the information.
Sure.
Instead of saying that
Sure,
we're
go ahead.
changing everything.
Go ahead.
We are not changing everything. The residential is gonna stay residential, and there's a little triangle that's changing from what it was to, Water One, which is, she was already in that commercial zone.
To be honest, I
It
don't even
hasn't
know
changed.
how it would matter, because I don't see how anybody could even build anything there. It's so small.
Well, exactly, so this might give her more of an option. This might make her land a little more valuable. She might get more money for her land if she decides to sell it, because her options are greater now.
No, that's fine, as long as they're greater, because
Yes, they
she
are.
had told me before that they were pretty limited when
No.
I had spoke to her.
Actually, I think they're a little bit better
Yeah,
at
and
this point.
that was the purpose of creating Water One,
Look,
Water
that's-
Two. Yep.
Yes,
That's fine, as long as she has options, because like I said,
She has greater
when I
options.
spoke to her, she was like disgusted.
yes, but she had a very nice meeting.
That's
with our-
fine.
with our
That's
acting
fine. I
planner,
wasn't aware.
Yes,
I wasn't aware of that.
so I'm glad you have the correct information now.
Yes, I am. I am too.
Okay, thank you.
I am too, as long as she's all set, because she couldn't make it tonight, quite frankly, anyway.
My understanding is she is all set, but, I mean, I'm not
No,
speaking,
that's
I'm
a
not
good
speaking,
thing.
I'm not speaking for her.
No, I
She
understand
has an
totally.
explanation of what is staying in.
That's fine.
Her decision is her decision. I'm
That's
not-
fine. The last time I spoke to her, she didn't say anything about
Okay.
that,
She had a
which
meeting
was
this
like,
week, I hear.
it was last week that I spoke to her, so.
So, any further comments about the proposed changes? I want to be respectful, make sure you get all your points.
That's it. The only point, like I said, the one that really got me here tonight was not just the zoning, was that water issue. That's really got
And
me.
I'm gonna give you my card, and I'd like to talk to you about that afterwards, too. All right? So, I mean, I have
I mean-
some ideas.
You know, Stonebridge can get their own expert like we have.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Any other members of the public like to speak on this topic? Any other members of the public? Any other members of the public? All right. With that, I'm going to close the public hearing, and now we can dive into some of these items. So the council has in front of them a very nice color-coded template, two of them, actually. One produced by Madam Chair, and then one produced by Solicitor Romano. And the purpose of these, just so everybody's on the same page, the one with multiple colors. So you've got blue, you've got pink, you've got yellow, and you've got green. The use table, what we're supposed to vote on this evening is the entirety of the use table, because the entirety of the use table was advertised. But what the planning board has specifically addressed are these items in green, so Water 1, Water 2, TMS, PFD, and NB. The ones in yellow are next up. We will have another bite at the apple on those. So the planning board's going to come back to us relatively soon, I think, with updates for yellow, followed by, is it blue? Okay, followed by blue, and then finally open space and village commercial. So we are going to go through this use table again and again and again. But for now, what we want to turn our attention to are the items in green And you'll see that in some sections, right? So I'll take two-family dwelling as an example, and B, permitted, and ultimately the recommendation is now not permitted. So this would be the time for any council questions related to any of these specific use tables before we dive into the
So
next
can we go
section.
back to this one too? So-
Yes, sir.
So, other than the color-coded one you also have this one was produced by Mr. Romano. This one is all the ones that are marked yellow were the changes that were made as a result of the review, okay? So not all of these have been reviewed by the planning board, but most of them have, but some of these are changed. So if you look at the chart for I'm just looking at single-family dwelling, which is on the first page. The first S was that in a village commercial zone, it was, single-family dwelling was allowed by special use permit prior to 6/1/2024. That was the old zoning code, okay? Then, because of the change in state law, so that's S, so that was by special use permit. So a single-family home would be allowed in the village commercial by special use permit prior to 6/1.
Really one.
1/1/2024. Next, village commercial, second is N. As of June 1st, 2024, with the change of law that required us to have criteria for all special use permits, and it would automatically be a permitted use unless we had special, criteria. This council changed everything to N, or at least this to an N, to allow the planning board to come up with special use criteria. So as of 6/1.
Really 1/1 again.
I'm sorry, 1/1/2024, sorry. The law was passed in it was an N. So that's the interim. So since the interim is over, the new recommendation is that it remain an N from this point forward, until such time as they review it again, I guess. But so.
Right,
that-
it's in the pink, so it's gonna get reviewed at the end.
Right, but you're voting on this today. So
Yeah,
this
correct.
this is what the table will look like today. So if someone wants to build a house in the village commercial tomorrow, the answer is no, it's not permitted. So yes, it could be reviewed in the future. It's supposed to be removed in the future, but I just wanted to make it clear. As of today, this is what you're voting on. You have to adopt this entire table.
And part of the reason we have to do that is because right now we have Water 1, Water 2 zones, and there is no use table, so technically you can't do anything.
Which we need to get a business open in Water 1 and Water 2.
Correct.
But the planning board has assured me, I've been doing a lot of research on this and sitting in on their meetings, that they are gonna look into they are gonna take all these other categories that we're gonna pass tonight, but they're gonna go back and look at all these other categories to
Yes.
make sure we are where we need to be. And, I definitely have some concerns in those other categories, and I'm sure we're gonna get another bite at the apple with it. So, with the work they've been doing and the extensive work, the meeting that I sat in on all the green, and the yellow?
Yes. We did,
Yes. I think we should move to pass it.
And I agree with Councilman Comito. And every meeting is like that, Craig. Every meeting goes through line by line and has been doing that for many hours, over many meetings, over many months. And to say that they've done their due diligence, they've done their due diligence and then some.
Well,
So-
I think along with that, you also have to read the comprehensive plan, right? So, like, if you read that, I think what we're doing here is kind of lining up with it. I've been doing a lot of reading the last couple of weeks, and it seems like we're trying to line that up, and I think we're heading in the right direction.
Just for ease of use, the color-coded version that you have in front of you also reflects Todd's table where he's given you the historical,
Yep.
original, the interim, and now the proposed. So if you look at that color-coded table, you have all of that in one place and can see both.
Counselor Hayden.
The items that were moved off of the prohibited list in the last meeting, what happens to those?
The planning board, so that was where we referred those back to the planning board. The planning board will revisit them, and they would then have, because the recommendation has to come from the planning board. So the planning board would have to meet, discuss those items, and then ultimately make a recommendation to this body, and then we would up or down, or make changes
But we're
at
not
that point in
passing
time.
this before we have that, are we?
I'm sorry?
You're trying to pass this before we have.
Regardless, we need to pass this because as of right now, nothing can occur in Water 1 or Water 2. So we would pass the entire table, but this is not, as the solicitor said, this is not set in stone. So 2 weeks from now, the planning board could come back and say, we want to have breweries in the R30, and that we think that that's what you should do.
But they could not come back and say that, though.
They could.
They could.
But it's, I'm sorry.
Wait, but
So why did we take them out? Why did we take them off the prohibited list last time if?
We didn't take them off the
We
prohibited
gave
list.
them 6 months to get it done.
We referred that back to the
Understood.
planning board.
Okay.
We gave them a time frame of 6 months to get those.
6 months for us to review them. One thing to remember, Counselor Hayden, we operate at the request of the council. So any task that you give us by charter, we take up. But part of what we do is make a recommendation to you on zoning as well. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but keep in mind that it's possible. You may ask us for language for something, and we'll give it to you, but it will also come with not a positive recommendation based on the research that we've done. So, but we do have a 6-month time frame to look at some of those items that you would have added back to the list. The other thing that I'm hoping is that in the not too distant future, you're going to be getting an update on the water infrastructure. And I'm going to be careful to use the word infrastructure because I've been accused of saying there's not enough water. Physically, there's lots of water. It's about whether or not we can get it delivered. But once you get a little bit more of an update from us on the water situation or the water infrastructure situation, some of those choices, you may say, okay, I'm willing to wait a little while till that infrastructure issue gets resolved. Maybe not, but maybe.
And when will that report on the infrastructure be available?
I think the chief has an preliminary copy of it. There have been some updates with Stonebridge recently in terms of some modeling that they are taking on. And so once we have some firm dates on that, we'll be able to give you a better idea of when we'll be able to give you at least a pretty preliminary report of what we're looking at for infrastructure, water infrastructure.
Thank you for all you and your team have done on this.
All right, any other questions on the use table, Councilor Perry?
I would just like to say, I had a nice conversation with Trish last week, I believe, a good half hour, 45 minutes. I'm more confident in what I'm seeing now after speaking to her. Councilor Comito and I have been discussing what's on these sheets. He had a few questions on 2 and 3 family dwellings, I believe, but we've discussed that and there's ways around it that we've come up with. So I think we're satisfied with what's on these sheets to be approved for tonight, and I think we're okay, and we can move forward. Thank you, and thanks for all you've done.
It's been a good team effort, and the planning board and the zoning revision committee, there's a lot of people working on this, so thank you for the appreciation. I'll make sure to pass it on.
I appreciate your patience
All
with
right.
this.
Any other councilors? Councilor Paull?
My last comment would be, thanks for the color. I like color. That last meeting, for some reason, went off the rails, and this is so much clearer, and it makes things a lot easier.
Credit to Ashley and Todd for the great ideas on.
We get the bill.
On the color coding.
We get the bill.
Haven't got it yet.
So,
Quick pass it. We're gonna pay for that color.
if I could just ask, since we are looking at this as a block, Article 16, Section 5, as it relates to the specific and objective criteria for special use permits. There's a subsection here, subsection E, where it talks about public and semi-public uses.
You have a page number?
Yeah, so it's almost to the end, page 58. And for instance, nonprofit, organization, club, lodge, social, community center building, it references primary access shall be through non-residential roadways, and I'm curious as to that specific definition, if you could call that out, because I think most of our roadways are residential roadways.
So I need to just, where's that in the use?
It's in the thicker packet.
I just want to check the use table, because section 3, section 4.
one. I think that the reason for that is
Semi-public.
that that's really geared towards waterfront too, because that's the one place where you might be driving through neighborhoods to get there, and we're trying to, trying to minimize that. It's not super enforceable, but we are trying to say, listen, if somebody decides to open, I don't know, some sort of nonprofit community organization where they're gonna have events and they might have things in the evening or whatever it is, that they try and use the main roads and not send a lot of traffic down residential side streets. It's not necessarily super enforceable, but if when they come into us, they get a traffic management plan that says, you encourage your, encourage your members or your participants to use the main roads and not be driving through neighborhoods.
So essentially, primary should be after through. Access shall be through primary non-residential roads.
No. Primarily.
Yeah, no, I get that, I'm just looking at the semantics of it, like,
Oh. So I'm a little concerned with that it's not enforceable because it is a part of your code. So a zoning board or a planning board has to,
It is somewhat enforceable because we require a traffic engineer to
Right.
come in and discuss this with us, and he would be the one identifying the residential or non-residential streets.
I think it's for the semi-public, right? I mean, the semi-public uses, right?
there are other uses
There are
here.
others that use that terminology.
Oh, okay.
But it's an undefined term, correct?
Always with the guidance of the traffic engineer.
Right.
The
I-
goal
I
is
guess
to
what
protect
I'm-
the neighborhoods.
I guess what I'm saying is that there's not necessarily going to be a police officer sitting, at every little residential street if somebody's not,
But they could call.
but they could.
And I guess because if we're talking public and semi-public uses, like, the senior center's off of Connecticut, right? That's technically a residential road.
Yes, well, I mean, you can only get there from
Yeah.
there. I think, if you think about parts of the waterfront, for example, you can go down Central Ave, right, to get down to the area underneath the bridge, and you're not gonna be driving down. Yeah, right. I mean, so there are some streets that we'd prefer that the traffic engineer work with the applicant to say, send your traffic that way rather than going through people's residential neighborhoods that can be
Excuse
avoided.
me, it does say primary access shall be through non-residential
Right.
roadways. It's not all access.
What would be the mitigating factor, though, like if you're gonna build something and the only access is a residential roadway? That's,
Couldn't that be a reason to reject it because you don't have primary, that's my concern, right? So if you have a use that's that the only way you can get through is through residential zones, you don't meet the criteria for your special use permit. This is primary.
We can add a modifier, I'll call it modifier, primary access shall be through non-residential roadways where possible.
is that,
Is that specific and objective enough? I mean, I know we don't have a real test for what that means yet, but. Because I think this is under this specific
Yes, it is.
special use
Yeah,
permit.
it is. It's under,
so-
yeah.
on our end, would be no through traffic signs.
Unless no other access is available.
How about this? I think we should pass it as is, come back with that, with
I love
some
it.
additional
We can
language.
look into
You need
that
to look at it, because
further.
it's too much of a,
Yeah, we
because
can-
it is specific and criteria, it's too much of a language barrier there that, technically, if you're applying this and you don't have that primary, you're out, right? That's,
Well,
the zoning board has to apply the correct criteria that you have, so.
But this is not specific and objective criteria.
Yes, it is.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I thought it was a performance standard.
No, it is.
This
Is
is
that
for
an
special
S?
use permits.
It's under 16.
Oh,
And that
it
language
is an
appears in a
S.
couple other uses.
Yeah.
so
Waterfront zone,
with the specific and objective criteria for the special use permits, if we're gonna make a change to this in the future, Is it a burden to re-advertise this section and make that language alteration?
Let me tell you this, Mr. President. Last week, the planning board met. It went through the yellow section of your district use table.
Can you use the mic, please?
I'm sorry. And on March 4th, at its March 4th meeting, I believe they're going to make a positive recommendation to you about those district use sections, as well as other zoning ordinance amendments, so we could certainly include an amendment to this.
Perfect.
Would you like us for now, for the purposes of voting, to strike?
No.
No.
They're gonna leave it as is with the
Yeah.
understanding you're gonna come
Find some
back.
other language.
They're either gonna define
Yeah.
it or find some other language.
I just want to make sure it's not a burden for, for you guys to make some alterations and come back.
I don't think so. I mean,
Okay.
the main purpose was to try not to send a lot of traffic down, heavily residential side streets when there are other streets.
And I think that that's admirable, like, that's what we should be doing, so.
Yeah, and I think that should apply to, what if someone has truck deliveries coming in, right? Freight trucks delivering stuff or something like that, even more so than cars. That's, you definitely don't want 18-wheelers going through residential neighborhoods, right?
Yes.
All right, so any further discussion from the council? Nope. All right, hearing none, I'm looking for a motion to approve the zoning ordinance amendments, Article 4, Sections 1 to 13A, Article 5, Sections 1, 2, and 4, Section 15 as well, on both of those. Article 6, Section 10, Article 7, Section 2, Article 16, Section 5.
So moved.
All right, motion, do I have a second?
I approve the motion.
Counselor Perry seconds. All those in favor? None opposed. All right. So, for the purposes of keeping consistent with the agenda, we did have a couple of items that we, I guess, need to vote to send back to the planning board. I know Counselor Comito has still won the Riding Academy or Stable, but given the fact that the planning board is going to come back to us with recommendations for those districts, would it be acceptable for you to, well, now you guys know, so you'll take a look at that for us?
Yes,
Okay.
that is,
It's on our list.
Perfect.
that'll come to you as part of the residential set of zoning recommendations.
Perfect. And then I had also brought up Article 4, Section 10 for gasoline filling stations and including retail sales as an accessory use, and then Section 11D, commercial off-street parking facility, which I have communicated directly with the planning board chair on. So I don't think we need a formal vote there either, unless you deem it necessary, Mr.
No,
Solicitor.
these are all 6 months to, these are all 6 months to get back to us.
Yep, perfect. All right. Now, moving on. Chair Hilton and the Planning Board overview and discussion on a comprehensive development applications for consideration at the Planning Board to include approval status of current applications. Will you need the giant projector?
Yes, please.
Wonderful.
What's up next, sir?
This is the presentation Tricia's going to.
How come this isn't in color?
Black and white?
We need the,
Black and
Are
white?
you trying to save money now? You spent all the money on the color one?
Ran out of ink, they ran out.
We ran out of color after the tables.
Do we have a, so this is now enacted, right, this use table? We gotta post this somewhere, because we're gonna have people apply, right, so. Well, I don't wanna do a map until we're finished.
The remote?
Oh, the map did, right. So but the use table is still gonna be changed, right, so I don't wanna keep on, don't tempt, it may change, right?
It will, yes.
We need to put something online now, because people can apply. We have to give it to the clerk, so that people can see what the use table is as they sit here today.
I didn't touch it, I swear.
Yeah, no, but.
No, right now.
are you
No,
plugged
but
in?
it could be,
No.
but people are gonna be applying, we gotta be able to look, the building official needs to be able to look and
At the underlined version, that's on the website already.
well, yeah, I guess. What do you mean the underlying, no, the new one, they need to look at the new one.
I understand, Mike, but until we have it, until I can give Joan a clean copy, no underlines, no strikeouts, they can look at the version online with the underlines and strikeouts.
Oh, yeah, that's fine, yeah. Is it online? It's just under proposed.
You guys having a legal battle here?
No, we're just.
I'm winning.
Wow.
Usually right there. Is it on the table? It's on the,
Usually in there.
is it on the podium or inside?
No.
The, what do you?
I don't know, they're just telling me to find the remote.
I was looking for the remote, and then they're like, it's on, so I'm like, okay. Thank you,
I've been saying that.
No, that's not your fault. I'm not blaming you. I'm telling you that you should wait till it's all done.
I vacated the chair, but the floor is yours.
Okay, am I starting?
Yes, everybody, Councilor Hayden's looking away. By all means, Madam Chair, take it away.
Okay.
There you go.
So, we're in front of you this evening to talk a little bit about some of the development pressures that the community has been facing recently, and there's a fair amount of consternation and some concern about large developments that are in front of the planning board for approval. And these large developments are primarily comprehensive permits. So we want to talk to you a little bit tonight about exactly what the comprehensive permit laws are, and understand how they affect the way we evaluate these applications, and also give you an understanding for exactly what we have in the pipeline right now in various stages of approval. First, let me say this. I think that everybody in the community recognizes the need for some affordable housing. I mean, after all, we want young people who grew up here, who want to be able to stay, to be able to afford to live here. We want seniors who may be on a fixed income to be able to stay in the community that they've lived in their entire lives. We want young firefighters, young police officers, young teachers to be able to live in this community. So I think everybody understands that there is a need for affordable housing. What we're seeing, however, is that the law as it is implemented today presents some significant challenges for us. So the objective today is to share those challenges with you, and as I said, let you know kind of what's in front of us. So comprehensive permitting has been around for quite a while. It's mandated under Rhode Island General Law, Chapter 4553. And it requires each municipality to meet a minimum of 10% of its housing stock as designated affordable. And there have always been incentives for developers to build this affordable housing by giving them additional market rate or bonus units in return for building the deed restricted affordable. And there's always been an expedited review process. However, in 2024, the Speaker of the House introduced what was known as the Speaker's Package of Housing Bills. And that really dramatically changed the comprehensive permit laws in the state. So it significantly increased a developer's incentive to build affordable housing. And it allows for proposed developments in any location or any zone, whether or not it's compatible with the underlying zoning. It severely limited our municipality's ability to deny one of these applications, and unlike in the past, any appeal of a decision to deny an application now goes directly to Superior Court. So if we dive a little deeper into these, under the new 2024 laws, a developer can propose a comprehensive permit development in any zone, including industrial or commercial. So any residential zone, any industrial zone, any commercial zone. They may also propose multifamily in any zone, regardless as to whether or not multifamily would normally be allowed there. The market rate bonus units are now set by a state formula. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute. You can't restrict the number of bedrooms in a unit to less than 3. You can't require more than 1 parking space per 2-bedroom unit. And there are now 5 very limited reasons for denial. And it's extremely limited if your municipality is at less than that 10% magic number of affordable units. There have been a number of people who have asked, what about impact studies for these? Under the new law, impacts to police, fire, schools, property taxes are not reasons for denial. You cannot include those in determining that you're going to turn down one of these applications. So municipalities have lost most of their power and their discretion when it comes to reviewing one of these applications. The bonus units now are laid out in state law, and there's a set of formula factors, and there are basically 2 sets of factors that come into play. One is a set that has to do with whether or not you've got public water or public sewer versus having well water and septic systems. And the other is the percentage of units that are designated affordable, either 25%, 50%, or 100%. And based on those, developers are given density bonuses, meaning they get to build extra units to make up for the affordable units that they're building. And these density bonuses are given per acre, regardless of the underlying zoning. So you would get the same number of density bonus units in R30 or R40 or R120. It's all the same. So to give you an example of what these density bonuses look like, and this is in every possible set of factors. Altogether, I think it comes out to be 9. We picked 3 to show you. The 2 most common that we're seeing, as well as one that's on the very, very high end. So we're going to take a sample 40-acre parcel in the R40 zone, right? This is a pretend make-up parcel. And it has no wetlands on it, so the whole thing is developable. So if you were going to come to us and do a conventional subdivision under our zoning, you would get 40 lots out of that. You wouldn't have any density bonuses. We're not including affordable units. That's our base zoning. If you take those factors and you say, okay, it's a comprehensive permit, but in this case, it doesn't have access to public water or sewer, and 25% of it is affordable, then you get a density bonus of 3 units per acre. So you start off with the 40 that you would get by right, you get 120 density bonus units for a total of 160, and 40 of those are affordable. That's a 300% increase over what our normal base zoning is. If you go to the second column, in this case, where you would have access to public water and sewer, and again, 25% is affordable, you get a density bonus of 5 units per acre. So now you're talking about 200 density bonus units, plus the 40 that you started with, which brings you to 240 units, 60 of which are affordable. That's a 500% increase over our base zoning. And finally, if you're doing a comprehensive permit with public water and sewer, and you are willing to do 100% of the units as affordable, you get 12 units per acre. And as you can see, you end up with a total of 520 units. They're all affordable. That's a 1,200% increase over our base zoning.
Can I just make a point on that?
Yes.
So this is where, people in the audience, some people say that, it's a North Tiverton, South Tiverton thing. So you can see by these numbers why people want to build where we have public water and sewer. So it's not a North Tiverton versus South Tiverton. The developers want to be where there's sewer and water, and that's why it looks like we're trying to build everything in North Tiverton. It's not the case. It's the developers that are seeing it's easy for them and they get more for their buck. So it's not, I wish Mrs. Aguirre was still here so she could see this, but it's not a case of we're trying to build everything in North Tiverton. It's the laws and they're taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
No, you'd have to put a well and a septic in for each unit. If you do it in North Tiverton, you can connect right in, right? So-
Right. I mean, first of all, there's more density. Councilor Comito is exactly correct. First of all, there's more density. Second of all, it's frankly less expensive because putting in wells and septic systems, is expensive.
I did have one question about that example, Trish. Are accessory dwelling units restricted here? Because I'm just seeing like, like you got 40 units and then everyone starts building.
You could actually double these numbers.
Right.
And the accessory dwelling units, the state law requires that if an applicant comes in for a proposed development and they propose an accessory dwelling unit as part of the development, you're not allowed to count that towards the density.
That's crazy.
So the 40 units could be 80 with an ADU on every lot. The 160, you could double every one of them at the development application.
Right, but with 1 acre, you'd need tiny homes to do that, basically, right? I mean, you can build an accessory dwelling unit, 2 homes on 1 acre is gonna be.
Yes, you can, actually. Now, under the new laws, you can.
It's also allowed to be within the structure, so you might have one larger structure that houses 2 units. The accessory unit can be inside the principal dwelling.
Connected.
Got it, yeah.
Yeah. So when people in Tiverton are asking, how is it possible that we're seeing these developments with these huge numbers and it's R40 or it's R120 or it's, R30? How is this happening? This is how it's happening. So where are we in terms of affordable units in Tiverton? The target from the state is 10%. According to Rhode Island Housing, right now, we're at 4.26%. And I actually think that we're a little bit higher than that. That gets calculated only once per year, and that's the calculation number that the developers get to use. But we do have the new Solara building that opened at the Bourne Mill. We also have a project going on that's looking at some of our manufactured homes. We'll talk about that a little bit more. I actually think we're a little bit above 5, but for the purposes of today, we've got 7,400 year-round housing units and 319 that are affordable. As I said, this is calculated once per year. Units that are approved but not built do not count. So you don't get to count affordable units even if you've approved them until they have a certificate of occupancy. And the time frame that these developers have to build these is fairly substantial. The final plan has a 2-year vesting period with an automatic right to a 1-year extension. And then they have a 60-month or 5-year construction period. So none of what you approve gets to count towards your 10%.
Quite a lag there.
Until it has
CO, right?
Until it has a CO. And you're talking about, 5 to 7 years before any of these things could in theory be built. And until, as we said before, until you hit that 10% number, as a municipality, you have limited control and discretion.
Can I say one, for clarification, to Tricia's point, the one of the benefits you get when you reach that 10% is that you're no longer subject to comprehensive permits. So her point being, you could approve units that would get you to 10%, but until those units are built, you're still subject to more comprehensive permits because you haven't reached 10% officially.
Yeah, but when we're at 8 or 9%, we're really at 10%, so we gotta keep an eye on it when we're getting close, right?
But as long as you're under
gonna be at
10,
12%.
you're subject to a comprehensive permit, and you can't stop it from coming.
Actually, at the 10% level though, are you still, if you're under, at the 10% level, can the developer still get the density bonus? No, is that the answer no?
Once you hit 10%, you no longer have to accept comprehensive permits.
Okay, okay.
But that could take years to hit that.
You could have them on
Right.
the books and approved and not built.
Right, so if we had 3 major developments going in, and we didn't complete them for another 5-7 years, and then somebody else came in with another major development, we have to acknowledge that development under the comprehensive plan.
That's the flaw in the law.
Right. So, I mean, as long as people understand that, this is the dilemma we're having, to control the large developments.
Yeah. So there are some options for including other units, and we are working with the chief, I'm not sure where here, right, there he is back there. So the law does allow you to have a half a unit credit for certain manufactured, or what some people think of as mobile homes. There is no requirement for deed restriction. The owner of those does nothing. There's no deed restriction. They don't have to do anything. But the community is required to hire an approved monitoring agent who goes out and actually certifies that they meet the criteria and counts them. And we are working with the chief because we do have a fair number, at half credit. That will add some for sure. The one restriction that's unfortunate for us, I think, is that the land that the units sit on has to be owned as individual lots or by a homeowners association, which excludes Country View in our case, which could be counted. Now, I don't know why, because Country View, I believe, the Hometown America owns the land, but it's like on a 99-year lease. I can understand if there was no long-term lease where they might not do this, but, this is something in the law that, would really benefit us if long-term leases were recognized. You can also get half a credit for non-deed restricted rental units in multifamily where they're doing 30% of it is restricted to the lowest income level, which is 60% of the area median, or 50% is restricted to the second lowest at 80. We really haven't seen any of those, although the new building, the new Solara building at Bourne Mill actually does qualify, but almost all the units are deed restricted.
Trish, I think Country View, I think they have an HOA.
They have an HOA, but they don't own the land. It's
not one or the other?
The land has to be owned by the HOA. And they have a homeowners association that controls the rules and regulations, of what you can do there. But
Individual lots or
owned by the HOA.
Homeowner association owned.
Owned, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it has to be owned by the HOA.
Madam Chair, quick question. Hiring a monitoring agent, I'm assuming that this is something that this is an outside agency. It's not a certification that our assessor could get.
No, you can't do
They're
it yourself.
qualified by Rhode Island Housing.
Okay.
Oh, it's another mandate.
So,
I'm just going to caution everyone, we're not going to talk about specific projects here.
no, we're just gonna look at the numbers, because these are all in front of us, so we're
I might have a question, Todd.
You and I can talk.
yes, you can talk to the solicitor. So where are we? Right now, we've got 5 comprehensive permits in front of us. Anecdotally, we know of at least 3 more that have not come to us, but we've heard about them. So you've got Pecasset Reserve, which is at Fish and Souza with 275 units. A small one on Main Road, Sunset Ridge, that's only 8 units. The application Vital at Tiverton Commons, which is the south side of Souza Road with 256 units. Friendship Farm on the east side of Stafford Road, and by the way, that's in the R120 district, so, the point about these aren't being proposed in any place but North Tiverton is, that's not exactly true. That's 155 units. And then on the north side of Souza Road, there's another 43. That's 737 units with 185 of them affordable.
Sure, so all these units, these are the final numbers, these units include the bonuses and all that stuff?
Yeah.
So the misconception of 280-something units at Friendship Farms is not true, that I keep hearing about.
Well, so you'll notice some of these say preliminary plan approved or master plan submitted. So the closest thing to being final, where you've really sort of got, this is what you're doing, is preliminary plan approved. So you'll see on Friendship Farm, they've submitted their preliminary plan, but they've only submitted it. So, and their initial submittal is for 155 units.
Okay.
As you can see, these are really substantial numbers for Tiverton. We don't see development at this pace. We've never seen development at this pace. And as I mentioned, these are the 5 that are in front of us. We know of at least 3 more. So why are we getting all these comprehensive permits in Tiverton? We are the last East Bay community with a lot of available land. We still have thousands and thousands of acres of developable land. Many others aren't. I mean, someone mentioned Little Compton. The thing about Little Compton is most of their, vacant land is under conservation easement. The Little Compton
LCAT.
Agricultural Conservancy Trust, has a conservation easement on all of it. They have a very small amount of land that's actually left that's buildable, where we have thousands and thousands of acres. Portsmouth, Middletown are similar. They have a parcel here, a parcel there, but nobody has what we have. We are also the only Rhode Island community that borders an out-of-state urban population center that has its own housing problems. There's no other town in Rhode Island, that sits next to, a Massachusetts city that, has its own issues with enough housing and affordable housing. And there's no residency requirement for buyers or renters of these units. So you don't have to be a Rhode Island resident. You surely don't have to be a Tivertonian resident. And frankly, some of these developers have been pretty upfront that, they're building these units not for Tiverton, they're building them for, the South Coast area. And then we've got the commuter rail going to Boston. And, that's a target-rich market of people who, with all these bonus units, who might be working from home 2 or 3 days a week, and they're going to take the train to Boston the other 2. So when you combine these huge numbers of bonus units, you get to override all the local zoning, you get expedited review, big profit margins on the bonus units. Well, of course, that's going to drive developers towards comprehensive permits. We don't have any conventional subdivision applications, and you can see why.
Have you, the planning board, zoning, have we ever done an analysis as a town of having our own LCAT, TCAT, Tiverton Conservation Group? Like, is that something that would be at all feasible for our town?
Well,
I think it's a great idea. It works really well for Little Compton, and I know we're not Little Compton, as you just alluded to. We next to a very seasoned city, and then, I'm just curious what it would take for us to put something like that in place, and if there would be negatives, benefits for the town.
I don't know. I mean, we do have the Tiverton Land Trust, and we have our own open space commission. I
think a lot of that land in Little Compton gets donated more than anything.
No, every time you purchase a property, anything over 300,000, you have to pay 4% of, you buy $1 million property, that's 700,000, above 300,000, you pay a 4% LCAT fee upfront when you purchase property. So anyone that purchases property in Tiverton, anything above a certain number that we set, there would be a 4% tax that goes to the conservation group to conserve land and also reduce building.
I certainly think if the council wants to investigate that, it would be a fine thing to investigate. I think that, obviously the solicitor and our land use attorney probably would have to weigh in on it, but that is how Little Compton has managed to acquire, if not the land outright, the development rights to, almost all the land that's there.
So Todd, what do you need from us? Do you need a vote? Do you just need direction on, just need a request from John for an opinion on that? Or?
That's a state law. I believe that Little Compton has enabling legislation to allow us to do that. So we don't have that yet. So we need a state, I think Little Compton has a specific state law subject to them there, because the conveyance tax is set by state law, but they have a special one that directs so much to their land trust or whatever they call it. So we would need legislation at the state level to do so.
Councilor Hayden, get on it.
So that's something.
We'll
that
have
if
an
you wanna-
agenda request in a couple days.
Yeah.
So here's the other issue, which is you can't get there from here because under the current laws, getting to 10% is really, really difficult because you can't force a developer to build more than 25% affordable, and that is the sweet spot. If you actually do the math in that factor matrix that I showed you, the place where a developer gets the biggest bang for their buck is to do 25% affordable, and you can't force them to do anything else. And those bonus market rate units generate a lot of profit. But they also drive up the denominator for us in doing the calculation of 10%. So if you took what we needed today, and I actually don't think it's 429, I think we're under this, but to get to 10%, and I think it's probably, if we get the manufactured home sorted out and add the Solara in, it's like maybe 350 or 370. If somebody came in today and built 350 or 370 affordable units, we would be at 10%. But under these comprehensive permit laws, to get to 10%, you would be talking about building out enough comprehensive permit developments, and they're all going to only be 25%. You would need 3,000 new comprehensive permit units with 1,069 of them restricted as affordable to reach 10%. So it's, build 350 units to get there or build 3,000 units to get there. It's really difficult because those bonus units drive the denominator up so much. This isn't really, this falls under the affordable housing section of the general laws. What this really is a housing bill wrapped up in an affordable housing package. The state is not only after affordable housing, they want housing. I think I heard yesterday that the director of Rhode Island Housing said the state's goal was to build 15,000 new housing units in 5 years. But I'm not sure they're really concerned about where they end up. The one-size-fits-all approach to all 39 Rhode Island municipalities does not work. The density bonuses that we're looking at, are an enormous challenge in a place like Tiverton where you have limited public water infrastructure and sewer infrastructure. You've got some of the worst soils in the state for septic systems. There's no aquifer for the wells. We've just got fractured bedrock. We're driving developers to comprehensive permit developments versus conventional subdivision. And there are significant restrictions. You can't consider the impact to the abutting neighborhoods or things that are nearby or the entire community. You can't consider infrastructure or traffic or an environmental mess that you're going to create or even the town's ability to manage its own growth. And frankly, meeting the community comprehensive plan, because I can tell you right now, community comprehensive plans get done once every 10 years. We did ours in 2018. No one considered this possibility when we wrote our community comprehensive plan. No community did. So, none of these are doing development this way is certainly not, is not, in line with what's in our comprehensive plan. So we need help and we need support from our state legislators. That's what we're here to tell you. And again, not that we don't recognize that we need some affordable housing in Tiverton. We're just not sure that this one-size-fits-all program is the right way to do it here.
Is there a way to get this up on some website or something?
Yes.
Because it's maybe Tiverton happenings.
We can give it to Mr. Roberts.
That's pretty straightforward. I'm tired of seeing that Tiverton happening, so we're all getting rich on developments.
Madam Chair, thank you very much for putting this together for us.
That was fantastic.
I do want to make one comment before we move on to the next item. Solicitor mentioned that that was a flaw in the bill. And I think the reality is it's not a flaw, it's a feature. Unfortunately, what happened with the 11th hour change to the housing pushed by Providence was to essentially make the housing problem in Providence, Tiverton, and everybody else's problem. So I would encourage anybody who's, watching this and upset by it to pay attention at the state level, because there is a governor's race coming up, and one or more of those individuals responsible for pushing this through may be in a primary, and that would be your opportunity to make your message felt to them.
Just one more comment. Is there a way of enticing or working with the developers to say, hey, if we, I don't even know how to describe this, but change our project from, all this, something so large, and we give you, I don't know, a couple of more houses that you want, as opposed to all these bonus stuff, and to get you under the other plan? Is there a way to work with a contractor to say, hey, instead of doing this we can give you this if you work under this plan, as opposed to, I don't know if I'm explaining myself right, but.
I think so. I think the problem is, though, we have to follow the zoning code, right?
Right.
We can try and work with the developer and ask them if they could maybe, would they consider doing more than 25% affordable? But they can say no. I mean, it's,
is there an opportunity to ask a developer, would you be willing to, do some affordable units, but not through the comprehensive permit? Because once they file a comprehensive permit, the town's hands are tied on density. It's a minimum density in the law.
Some type of incentive to keep them under the old, not the comprehensive plan. What's the other plan that I'm looking for?
It's called the LCAT fee. They have to pay 4% to buy the land to develop it. They're going to think twice about it.
That's the way that comprehensive permits were prior to the changes to the legislation that happened, and it was 2023 legislation that became effective 2024. But it used to be a negotiation. The developer would apply, there was no mandated density.
Right.
They would ask for what they thought they could engineer, or maybe a little bit higher, so they had a, cushion to come back on. The planning board would go through the process with them. We would talk about the number of units, and there would be a back and forth and somewhat of a negotiation where the planning board had some room to push back. The room to push back is gone because of that floor that the General Assembly set, which is totally context insensitive. It's not related to anything on the ground.
I know this ties our hands,
Yeah.
but I didn't know if there was a creative way to say with the contractors, let's get out of this plan and come back to this plan over here, because we can give you X, Y, and Z. I don't know. Give you. I don't want to use the words tax break or something like.
You can, I think it's a worthwhile ask. I think the hard thing is that what they get in the comprehensive plan is first of all, a huge number of bonus units, but also they get relief from all of our zoning.
You'd never want to give that up as a developer.
You would have to find a really good-hearted, community-minded soul who is willing to sacrifice a pretty substantial amount of profit, to do it, because this is, this is like,
It's a gold mine.
This is the ultimate Christmas gift if you're a developer. It's hard to compete with that.
Mr. President, Trish, have you spoken to any other planning boards or other towns where, I've spoken to people, and they've spoken to places like Warren and Situate and Kingston and Johnston, where there's been a little pushback on, people trying to build in those particular towns. Have you heard from any of those people, or?
Ashley's probably our best connection to all of those sources.
I sat in the recent Situate I sit as Situate's town planner, so I was in that meeting that you might have seen on the
Saw
news
you
where
on
we
TV.
went through an hour and a half of testimony on a similar application. I know that there are municipalities that are struggling with this.
Situate's percentage is 0.87 affordable housing. 0.87, so we're way below the 10%. we also supply 60% of the water for the state, so it's a
Which
problem.
goes to the heart of the issue that, one size does not fit all, and sometimes you have to make choices between supplying clean drinking water and supplying housing, but the one size fits all is what we have now. But there are other municipalities that are struggling with this.
Are they suing the state, or
Nobody has sued the state.
no one has sued the state?
No.
I think there have been some who have threatened, but.
Johnston threatened, for example. It was empty.
Oh,
An empty
yeah.
threat.
I mean, this is state law. I mean, the law is passed, it's a valid law. You may not like the policy behind it, but it's a validly passed law. It's again, people think this home rule charter stuff is like gives them the ultimate protection. This is a law of statewide application. It applies to every town, regardless of their home rule charter, and that's why we're.
There is an exemption in the law, and there is an attempt to get that exemption removed. There are cities that are exempt if you have a certain percentage of rental housing, and so there is a move to get the rental exemption taken out of the law. And there is a committee that has met for, I've lost track of how many years, of studying the Low to Moderate Income Housing Act. And I haven't seen a lot of recommendations come out of it yet, so I'm not sure if any will.
I think the truth is that we really need help from the General Assembly to rethink some of these things, and there are some fixes that could help Tiverton in the short term. For example, if they would allow Country View, which has a 99-year lease on the property, to count, that's a simple fix. The density bonuses, that's probably going to take multiple communities at the state level and multiple legislators from multiple communities pushing back and saying, we are not all the same. You can't expect us to handle the same kind of density in this community that, another community could. But, so it's probably a combination, but that's really what we need.
But it seems like there's only 4 or 5 cities or towns that are in the situation.
No, I think it's much more than that, Councilor.
A lot more than that?
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
That's
it
good.
is. There's strength in numbers, and I know that the chief is talking about this at the league, so.
Perhaps, since you've had some involvement with some of the other communities, if there are specific tweaks that would be favorable to us, would it be possible to just get us some of those so that we can present those to the General Assembly when we ask them to come back down again? I think that would be helpful.
Yep, yes. I mean, if you're bringing the legislative team back,
Yep.
for sure, we'd
And
like you to.
ideally, I'd like to have it to them before they come down so that they
Yep.
can speak intelligently on.
To have them take this up on our behalf.
Yep.
That's what we need.
Cool. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All right, so for the next item, I am recused. Councilor Paull.
Go ahead, sir.
Just a simple question.
Yep.
Come on up. I'm looking like I'm.
Come on, sir. Come on, just to the microphone. Yeah.
I'm not used to this. No, you're okay. I'm Joe Carusi, 264 Capitol Circle, Tiverton. When you say number of units, for instance, you got the total of 737. Those single-family homes you're talking about as units, or are they duplexes, which,
They're housing units, they're
Units
dwelling
is,
units.
regardless of what type of structure they're in, it's a unit of housing. So it
So
could
I-
be in a single family, it could be in a multifamily. We didn't break that down.
So actually, 737, you could actually almost double that for the duplexes, is that what you're talking
No,
about?
no, that counts for
The
every
duplex is two.
dwelling unit.
Duplexes included in the
No,
737?
it's not every building, it's every unit.
Right, so it
Unit
could
is
be,
a-
it could be 737 single-family houses.
Yep.
Or it could be 737 apartment
Got it,
units.
I got it, okay, sorry. all right.
Units of housing.
Yeah, okay, so it's just a separate house, okay? One more question, okay? There are a lot of towns that seems to be fighting this. We talked to Warren, I actually went there and talked to them and everything. How come these towns, how come you don't unite? Instead of going single at the state, how come these towns don't unite and go at the state as a big group? I don't understand why you're not doing that. It seems like.
We just need a leader like you to get it together. It's a great idea. It's a great
There
idea.
you go. You get the honorary seat.
Well, I think,
talking to Warren
I
now.
think the administrator is doing that by talking with the cities of leagues and towns, which is an avenue that we use for information. And I think he's in the process of gathering that information from the cities and leagues and towns to.
But I'm just worried about the time you gather it and by the time you approve these, it's too late. I mean, we're not gonna know, I mean,
Well, to be honest with you, we're not going to change state law overnight anyway.
I
So
know,
we're,
but-
we're kind of stuck with this, unfortunately.
I know, but you can delay it, I guess that's what I'm saying, and,
And we are having those conversations, sir. Like the mayors, town administrators, town managers.
Yeah.
This is impacting, like the planning board and the planner said, it's impacting all of us at different levels.
I know.
So we'd like to approach it like class action and deal with the speaker, speak with the governor, and say that it's this far and no farther.
Right.
Because this is impacting us tremendously, but those conversations are being had.
okay, I'm glad to hear that.
Yes,
I really
sir.
appreciate that, makes me feel a little bit better.
Yes, sir.
Okay? It just, I have that, I do, I've read it many times, and to me, you're fighting against stacked deck. I mean, the guy tells you what you can do, can't do, put both hands behind your back, and it's still, like that lady said, we live in a democracy, not a dictatorship.
Yes, sir.
And you can do whatever, I mean, you can fight any way you want. You don't have to go by his rules. That's, I mean, we understand that, right? I mean.
I appreciate that, sir.
Okay, and I have one more comment.
Yes,
okay,
sir.
While I'm up here.
Yes, sir.
I don't get up here very often. I think really, until we get our representatives here, we should probably put everything on hold until we can talk to them. I know I talked to people in Warren, and when they got the representatives there, they did make some changes to the law. But I understand in Situate, when they came in, they said, we didn't know what we were passing. I mean, that may mean. So we got to get the representatives here before we really do anything, because, I mean, you can predict what's going to happen with an impact study, but once it happens, that's reality. It's like the weather. If there's three models, we're going to get a snowstorm, and when you wake up in the morning, you find out whether right or wrong, and that's what's going to happen, so.
Sir, keep an eye on the agenda. As the president said, it looks like March 10th, we should have our state reps here.
So just going to add, so the town did pass a moratorium on the, for 6 months. We did pass a moratorium
Yes.
to stop all this as while we updated our zoning and, but so that moratorium is gone and it would be very difficult to reimpose it.
Like I said,
The standards are a lot higher now to,
We're still
and it doesn't apply to LMI.
I was gonna say,
and it
I'll
doesn't-
add that comp permits are exempt from
Yeah,
any
right.
moratorium.
Thank you very much.
That's true, I'm sorry, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
What about that?
General business, D, Councilor Paull, discussion possible vote to approve Council Resolution 2025-0006, requesting legislative action related to North Tiverton Fire District and Stonebridge Fire District water. You guys all have a copy of the resolution in your backup, and I would like to entertain, do I have to read this or no? Nope. Entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I stand in favor of the motion.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
No, discussion.
Oh, sorry, discussion?
Discussion,
Go ahead, sorry, yes.
discussion.
Councilor Janik?
I have a couple of thoughts on this. First is, I'm not even sure this is legal for us to do this.
Mr. Solicitor?
I'm talking, okay? So, we do not have purview over the water districts. They don't report to us, so I do question that. The second thought is, did we even notify them? I talked to people over the weekend from both districts. They were not aware, and I think as a courtesy, if we are going to be voting on something that is going to change an entity, we need to at least notify them. Preferably, I think we need to get them in the room with us, with someone, to talk about what the pros and cons of making these changes are. I think at least as a courtesy, they needed to be notified and not read it on Facebook. And then, as I did ask Mr. LaRue, they do get grant money, they do get low-interest loans from the USDA, which is loans to small entities. They currently are small entities. If we combine them, it puts those numbers over. They're no longer considered small entities. They do not qualify for USDA grants. So I am voting no on this. I don't think it's favorable. I don't know any pros on why we would do this combination.
Councilor Camino?
So I see what you're saying about being, growing larger. My understanding is that Stonebridge right now only has 1,000 customers. And part of their buyout, when they sold off whatever they sold to North Tiverton, was Stonebridge can't grow if they want to grow, because I believe every new customer that comes into town has to go to North Tiverton Water. I don't think Stonebridge even has the option to take on new customers because of the deals that went through between Stonebridge and North Tiverton. So I'm not sure that, I guess, population or whatever number is gonna actually affect loans, or, because they're not gonna grow by a substantial number. Stonebridge only has 1,000 customers. I believe the town administrator did write a letter to both water authorities stating that both myself and Councilor DeMaderis, they're gonna be like, we decided to be the liaisons to them. Nobody has responded back to us. I didn't want to go over to the water authority and introduce myself without the administrator writing a letter, which he has. And I don't think they're too interested in even responding back to any of us. So it's a little interesting on why we can't get all the information from Stonebridge, why North Tiverton wants to give all their information. And I do agree where we should have some type of meeting to put all the facts in front of us so we know what the facts are. I'm not sure if this is the right thing to do either. I'm still kind of in the facts collecting mode, but they don't seem like they want to reach out and share their information. I know Stonebridge,
they
I know
don't have
Stonebridge
to.
does.
And they don't have to, really, because they don't report to us.
I get it, Deb, but in the meantime, the Tiverton has,
They do have to, though, because we need water. I take a shower every day. I cook with water. I feed my crops with water. We need water, and if someone's not willing to let us know if we have enough water, if we have accurate infrastructure, if they're not willing to use the correct hydraulic model that the other North Tiverton Fire District is using, and they're withholding information from us for a year that we've requested, and we cannot get what we need, something seems fishy there. So, and to your point, they were notified. You were not here that night. You were on your trip, and we sent letters to them, and there's 2 liaisons to both water departments now. And as far as the grant money goes, all USDA grants and funds are frozen right now anyways. So we can't survive on, having to get grants for our water to be clean and usable. Grants could end tomorrow, and right now they're frozen. So what, we're not gonna have water because we don't have grants? So merging the two districts potentially, I'm not saying this is the right way to go, but I think that we should look at it and get an analysis, an accurate analysis, to see if there are some economies of scales if we merge the 2 districts. To Craig's point, Stonebridge actually has a footprint they cannot expand. They want to expand, but they can't. So there are some synergies there, and employees. We got 2 directors. We could have 1 director. There's some employees that could be merged there as well. I'm not saying we need to let anyone go or anything, but maybe it happens through attrition, right? But there's some duplicacies there that could be streamlined. And again, we're talking about water here. We all deserve to have clean water for our families and know how much water we have available.
Okay, so I'm going to just say, Councilor Comito, you're saying that Stonebridge cannot accept any more customers yet. They're saying they have plenty of water for some of these new projects.
right.
So,
They can't sell it to them because it's not their customer. It has to go through North Tiverton
First.
that's not what they said when those developers came to the planning board. They said,
Who? Stonebridge or North Tiverton?
they said that.
Who's they, Deb?
The developers said that Stonebridge could supply them water.
So what I'm hearing, and I've spoken to the planner about this, I believe I've spoken to Tricia about this also, is what you're saying is correct. Stonebridge is saying they can handle the water, in fact, but they can't deliver the water. Their infrastructure, Stonebridge's infrastructure, is not capable of pumping the amount of water that needs to come out of the building to all our to all these developments. At the same time, they can't take on new customers to make more revenue to work on their systems because all the water they're selling has to go through North Tiverton. So they're in a dilemma or a pickle. They say they have plenty of water to deliver. Their infrastructure is not capable of doing it. So how do we fix their infrastructure if they don't have the revenue coming in to fix it? I don't know the answer. I'm willing to table this until we have a meeting or everybody in the same room to give us those answers, because I don't feel as though I have enough answers on what the situation is with the water. Everything right now is, everything that I hear right now is hearsay. We got plenty of water, we don't have plenty of water. Our pipes aren't strong enough, our pipes break every day. And this is what I'm hearing from North Tiverton. My system is superior, I don't want to help out the other system. But if we're gonna stop the North Tiverton, South Tiverton, this whole about what happens in North Tiverton and South Tiverton doesn't pay for it, well, we're not talking about South Tiverton, we're talking about Stone Bridge, which is still this side of Booger Marsh Road. It does have nothing to do with South Tiverton, and it has to do with quality of life and water. And if we can merge something, I'm not saying this is right, and have the director help build the proper infrastructure, or maybe get involved with getting the proper loans and stop. I mean, I think we have to start at the pump house.
I
The
agree
pump house
with
is
you.
so antiquated. Like, somehow we have to get loans, grants, or whatever, monies to start at the pump house. And if we're not combined, I don't know how we do it.
I think we need to get more answers, because I think it's
I
like
agree.
he said, she said, we think, we're not sure. I think that we need to know what the truth is, and I think we need to get everybody in the room before we can do something like this, which I'm not even sure we can do, but
Mr. Vice President, if it's the council's pleasure to table this, I would like the authority to reach out to both directors, invite them to the next meeting, so this way they can be here and answer any questions that the council might have before a vote on this item.
I am okay with that. I just to add more comment, keep in mind, North Tiverton Water is Stonebridge's largest customer.
Yep,
So
that's-
they're the money, I mean, they literally pump the first 10 days of the month to North Tiverton and take all of our money, and then after that, they're on their own. They do have the capacity to take on additional 400,000 gallons a day. They're under capacity with pumping, but I've also heard about the infrastructure. I've heard about the valve that's between the middle school and the high school that's being held together with Band-Aids. When does it end? When somebody on Booger Marsh has a house fire and the system collapses? When does it end? So.
can I ask, do we even legally have the authority to vote on this? They're not under our purview. They don't report to us.
So these districts were created by the General Assembly. They're the legislative body that created these districts. All this resolution is asking is the General Assembly to take a look at that, look at their charters, basically, and if they see fit, or there's a lot of work that needs to be done between this resolution and what actually happens. But all you're asking is the General Assembly to take a look at it. The General Assembly will come up with a procedure or proposal on how to merge them if they so desire to do so. I was in the legislature when, in the town of Lincoln and Cumberland, these are technically fire districts, where there was a whole movement to merge those fire districts. It's a whole process that we go through. All this resolution is asking them is to start the process to look into it. But of course, the boards would have to be consulted. There probably would have to be a vote. This would all be part of the legislation. There would probably have to be a vote of both entities, at least the board of directors of those entities, to go with the merger. But all that would be spelled out at the legislation. This is only asking the General Assembly to start looking at the process.
And the members might have to vote on that
They might,
also.
but it depends what the legislation has to say. The merger, the specifics of a merger would be worked out as part of the legislation. They could do it by fiat. They could just say, we're going to merge these two districts, and there would be no vote. It's up to the legislature because they're creatures of the legislature. That's my understanding.
Anybody else?
I just wanted to make a comment. Like, I agree with Deb. Like, this is all above our expertise, and that's why I think this should get put on the state and go to the legislative. Let's let them, who have way more resources than we do as one town, as the state, find out the way to do this. Sounds like North Tiverton might not want to merge with Stonebridge. Stonebridge might not want to, so we need somebody above to make the decision for us and tell us what the best thing is to do, and maybe they will model that against the towns around us. Maybe they won't. I don't know, but I think I agree with her. This is above us. They're separate entities for a reason, and my vote would be to send it to legislative and get this off our plate, let them handle it, and come back with a recommendation to us. If we wait 2 weeks and have both districts come in, I think we're just kicking it down the can another 2 weeks, and state legislative takes forever. So, I say we get this thing moving sooner than later, but that would be where I stand.
Mr. Solicitor, I have a member of the public there. They can speak, correct?
If you so choose.
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
Meredith Mucci, 333 East Road, Tiverton. Is it just a coincidence that we are talking about water when we're also talking about developments that we don't necessarily want to support? And does it actually make sense to fix the water issue now, because then the developments have access to the water? And I appreciate the desire for clear and accurate information and getting everybody in the same room. And maybe I'm not thinking about this right, but to me it sounds like, let's not fix the water problem right now. And in fact, if somebody wants so motivated to come in and develop, and they're going to force us to accept their development, they can pay for the water to get fixed to support their development.
And that is exactly why I wanted water on here with zoning, so that we can find out, do we have enough water? Don't we have enough water?
Yeah.
Do we have adequate,
But if we send it
effective,
to the
efficient
state and they
infrastructure?
force
Or
us-
do we not? No, the state would be to potentially merge both of the districts, so we have one district instead of two. Really, we have three right now, right? Because we have wells as well. So it would be to merge those two and then have them work together and use their expertise, dollars, revenues, employees,
As long as they
infrastructure.
use it to keep the development out,
Well,
support it.
I appreciate your position on that, but that's a whole nother animal.
So we have a motion and a second. I do understand the administrator's concern as far as getting facts on the table, getting people together. I also understand Councilor Hayden saying, get the ball rolling and maybe still bring them to the table. It would be your motion to pull, to table, or if you want to maintain it, we can vote.
We have a motion and a second. I'd like to maintain it and vote.
Okay, I will call for a motion to accept the resolution.
One question.
Go ahead.
To the solicitor. So, excuse me, my understanding is that if we pass this, this is just to get the ball rolling, to get them to inquire, ask questions. There's no way they can say, hey, boom, we're just gonna make this happen, you know.
No, but my concern.
It'd be a process.
Right, there'd be a process, but my concern is just sending this up to the legislature is gonna be, Doc Hole, we need to get to somebody, say this is a priority, and we need you to start looking at this. I mean, this would go up to the legislature. I don't know where it would go, frankly. It's gonna go to I would think we do have to send this to our local delegation, but then we have to ride upon them to make sure that they follow through on it. But this is just not gonna happen by just sending it up there. Someone's gonna have to be, asking them to start looking into this, so, a lot of these resolutions frankly get thrown away, because,
That's my concern. It's
so-
just gonna go to the bottom of the pile, and we're just gonna wait a month to get it up there. So we might as well get it underway now to find out.
Right, so you need, I would assume that if it passes, someone from the council would be in contact with the local delegation and saying, this is a priority, and we need you to start looking into it, pull the legislation, talk to legislative council, look at how other districts have done it, and then move forward out in that manner.
Ms. Hilton.
So, can Ashley and I say something that might help you here, maybe? it
Yes,
won't?
please.
Okay, so, there's a hydrology study that's being done. The prior town administrator got some grant money, so the town's not paying for it, to look at both Stonebridge and North Tiverton, and compare their water systems and look at the integration of their water systems to see how we could make those work as effectively as possible. So North Tiverton already has what's known as a hydraulic model, which is a very sophisticated computer model where they can run, infinite permutations of demand and hours and gallons, and they can evaluate a development that comes in, and they can run it through the model, and they can say, yeah, we can do this, or they'll say, no, we can't support this. So Weston and Sampson, which is Ashley's firm, was engaged to do this. The vast majority of North Tiverton's data, including their hydraulic model, is available to Weston and Sampson. Stonebridge has been a little bit behind, in part because their superintendent was out for a while. They had some DOH issues, but they have recently engaged PAR Engineering to build a hydraulic model for them. Once there are these two hydraulic models built, then Ashley's firm, Weston and Sampson, will take the two hydraulic models, peer review them, and be able to put them together. And once they get put together, then the town will have a really good picture of how can these two water systems operate together? What could you do, or what would be needed to increase performance or to make more water available? So I'll let Ashley finish, but in the not too distant future, depending on how long it takes PAR to get their Stonebridge's hydraulic model built, you should be getting
Information that we need.
a really comprehensive report about the status of the two water systems and particularly how they can work together. And that might include recommendations like Stonebridge's district needs to be expanded, or it would be really good to upgrade this infrastructure here, or you need a new pump station, or, you know, a tank here would be. So I'll let Ashley speak to it, but what I think you need to know right now, what you seem to be grappling with, is actually in process. And at that point, maybe you'll have more information to feel better about where you want to go from here. Ashley, do you
I
want to?
mean, I don't know that there's much more to say than what Tricia described. We're just at this point waiting for, we know that Stonebridge has agreed to contract with PAR to have that hydraulic model developed. We just have to wait to see when that happens, and once that hydraulic model exists, then we can take those two and model them together and get a better understanding of how one system impacts the other, because we know that they're very much connected. They operate as separate entities, but their infrastructure is connected. And right now, we know that in certain places, you know, North Tiverton has a lesser degree of certainty because of Stonebridge's lesser degree of certainty. And so this would resolve that issue, and we'd be able to plug development into the entire model in basically any location and get a much better understanding of what that means for the entire system. Where the weak spots are, there'll be a set of recommendations from that report to address those issues.
So.
Awesome explanation.
If that helps you with your decision, but if not, at least you kind of know what's going on there.
Thank you. I will,
Discussion is over, I guess.
if does anybody have anything else to say? Because otherwise I would go back to my motion to poll. So,
My position stands, I'd like to vote and keep my motion.
okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, and again, this is not a guarantee. I think this should trigger, at the very least, getting these two parties to the table, in addition to the study that's going on now. So I will call for a vote. All in favor of sending the resolution? All opposed? 3-2. 3-2, the motion passes.
Hey, I'm back. All right. So Councilor Hayden, discussion and possible vote for a strategic plan for updating water infrastructure.
Wait, did the motion pass?
Yes.
Do we need 4, or we only need 3 because
No,
one was
3-2.
recused?
It's
True.
quorum of who's
Got it.
present.
Thank you. Still learning.
No worries. All right, so you have before you an item that was submitted by Councilor Hayden, talking about strategic, and water infrastructure strategic plan. I think a lot of this has been covered. So, Councilor Hayden, I don't know if you want to add some more color to this.
Well, I mean, we just pretty much hit this topic with the last discussion, but, ultimately, I was a little concerned that we weren't getting the hydraulic model that we requested from Stonebridge. Appreciate Trish and Ashley giving us that detailed explanation, and I would hope that we have that in a timely fashion in the near future, maybe a couple months, not another year, right? But really, this request here is just to make sure we keep clean water and we have it flowing for our families and in our town. And I know there's been a lot of rumors. We do have water, we don't have water. Again, we don't know if it's capacity, we don't know if it's infrastructure, but a lot of that has been spoken about tonight, and we've learned a lot about that. So, point of this report is just kind of give the town administrator permission to go and request that hydrology report, which I believe is actually already underway now. So,
Perfect. So if there's nothing to add, I think you did a very good job on the write-up. It touched upon everything that we pulled in bits and pieces. So If it's all right with you, thank you for submitting that, and we can move on to the next item.
My pleasure.
All right, thank you, Councilor Hayden. So next item is discussion and possible vote on a police substation at Bally's Casino. Councilor Hayden.
Yeah, so doing some research on this, I just noticed a lot in the Secana Times, right? The police reports, casino, 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 casino. I had pulled 1 month's worth of reports, and it was really high. I think it's kind of an outlier. Spoke with the chief. He obviously has much better statistics and numbers than I do. I think the number's about 15% of the crime is occurring at the casino. Is that accurate?
So if I may, Counselor, so we pulled for the last 3 years, since 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024. So in 2021, just as an example, the police department responded to 28,165 calls, of which 480 were at the casino. Arrests were 870, 103 was at the casino. So from just a metric of the crime, or according to the calls for service, 1.7% of the calls for service were the casino. 11.8% were the arrest. So the arrest, and just to kind of read them off from 2022, 2023, and 2024, it's 1.8% in 2022, 2.2% in 2023, 1.9% in 2024. So there is a percentage. It's a very low percentage. The arrests probably hover around between 10 and 11%. So no disrespect, Council, but it's nowhere near 90.
Yeah, I apologize for being way off on that number, and I totally defer this project to you. I thought it'd be a great idea for us to add to the safety of the town and maybe even make the casino pay for it. The hotel's vacant. They got plenty of room there.
So
There's a cop there all day long. I mean,
I'll also remind you, Council, that we're an accredited police department. So it's one thing just to have office space, which they've already dedicated to the police and the fire department, but any other police type of infrastructure that we put into, it's like operating a second police department. So what I would recommend, and I know we had offline conversations about this, the town has allocated $50,000 to do a feasibility study for potentially another public safety complex. That your input and vigor on this project, I think, would be a welcome addition to the Public Safety Complex Committee, so we can discuss these issues and get the facts out there to not only yourself, but also the people, so we can justify this project moving forward.
Yeah, and I'd love to contribute to that project, so if there's an opening on it, I'd love to get in there.
Perfect.
Thanks, Chief. Appreciate keeping the town safe.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilor Hayden. All right, next item on the agenda, Interim Administrator Jones, discussion and possible vote to authorize the use of gaming funds to redesign the current town website. We also have a recommendation and review of the CivicPlus proposal that Councilor Hayden was instrumental in working on. So I'll turn it over to the Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. President. So again, I want to thank Councilor Hayden. He was part, along with Mr. Robert. I think all of us know that the current website, in a word, stinks. It definitely is woefully in need of upgrade. We sat down with CivicPlus, and for those folks who are watching the council meeting, CivicPlus is an organization that has a lot of different municipal type of software programs and platforms, to include websites. Middletown, Rhode Island currently uses CivicPlus, and we've modeled our preliminary website off of Middletown. So anyone who wants to check out the website, go to Middletown's. You'll be blown away by what they've done as far as a community and the scope of resources that are available on their website. So in utilizing this between myself, the counselor, and Mr. Robert, what we're proposing is a 5-year plan. So by using gaming revenue, obviously there is an upfit or a build-out of this website, and then there would be yearly fees. So by using gaming revenue, we'd be doing a one-time purchase. CivicPlus did give me and us a significant discount, so because we're going in a 5-year plan, but that would also take it out of the operational budget, meaning that like a capital expense, it wouldn't be included in our tax rate, and we would have that technology for 5 years. However, I know the councilor did have some back and forth with the vendor, and we just want to make sure, and what I would recommend to you, and I'll let Councilor Hayden speak on it further, that you give me some direction as to allowing me to sign, but there was a sticking point of I believe it's technology fee, that they wanted to put into the budget that they initially agreed to take off, but when you look at your backup, they included it in. So my recommendation to the council would be that you would authorize me to sign it under the current agreement with the understanding that there would be no technology fee included in any agreement.
Mr. Solicitor.
How much is this fee, how much is the cost of this? I'm sorry, I didn't see the total, because I'm concerned that we still have to comply with the state bidding laws on this, depending.
Well, they're on the GSA contract,
Okay.
so we don't need to bid it out. However, we are looking at two alternatives,
Okay.
just to make sure.
As long as it's not on the state
Yes.
contract.
Well,
Yes.
you know,
And
they
that was one of the
launched
first
this
questions.
in Middletown. They launched this in Portsmouth as well. I don't think that site came out as nice as the Middletown one, but check them both out. So our two neighboring towns are using it. I think we did a really good job negotiating. To the town administrator's point, initially they told us they were going to eliminate this technology uplift fee, and that actually it may apply if they roll out like an update or, you know, some new features or something. But then we got the proposal. It was just in there. And, you know, we both, David Robert and I, he did a great job spearheading this with the chief, but we asked them to pull that out. We went back and forth, negotiated. They said we concede. Then they came back with the proposal, and they had it in there in the sixth year at 6%. So they call it a technology uplift, but really all it is an annual increase. So to the chief's point, I would like to make a motion to approve signing this, updating the website. It's more than just a website. There's submenus for every single department. You're going to be 2 clicks away from finding whatever you need to find in the town of Tiverton versus 92 clicks to get to where you need right now. So I would say I'd make a motion to approve that we sign this pending that they remove the technology uplift for any, you know, any term, like forever. No, we have no technology uplift. What I don't want to see happen is 15 years from now, it's gone up 6%, 6%, 6%, 6%, and all of a sudden, you know, we're at 50 grand a year for the maintenance cost, and that's just, you know, that's not right for the taxpayers, so.
Thank you. I would just ask that you amend the motion to include asking the solicitor to draft for ratification, since we would be pulling the dollars from casino gaming funds, the requisite resolution that needs to accompany this.
How much is that, what's the per year fee?
I'm going to defer to the chief because it changed slightly, and I don't have the exact number from when I did my write-up.
It's 137,
That's my summer.
471 and 17 cents. My,
That's 5 years.
That's the 5-year
Year
number.
one is $48,000 at $92.77, yeah, okay. Right, so you need a resolution from the,
yep, so that's Councilor Hayden's motion. Do I have a second?
I consent to the motion.
Councilor
Can we
Perry.
have a little discussion?
Discussion. Councilor Janik.
You do?
I do.
So this is on the state-approved vendor list, correct?
Correct.
And then, did you say there were 2 other vendors that you looked at, or you're looking
We are
at?
pursuing 2 other vendors because they were playing hardball with this technology uplift, and they're not the only game in town. They're not the only, you know, municipal platform. So if they don't want to remove it, we're going to heavily pursue those other alternatives, although we don't have to because they are on the GSA contract.
The others are not? The others are not? on
They
the-
may or may not be.
Okay, but you have not pursued them because they're not getting back to you?
No, I haven't pursued them because we just started looking into the other 2,
Okay.
like, within the last week. This
All right.
this specific analysis has been underway for weeks, months.
Yes, sir.
I got brought in kind of coming around third base. The chief and David Robert had spearheaded this whole project. I demoed the system. I reviewed all the contracts, negotiations. We went through all the pricing. One thing I specialize in and what I do for my day job is selling software as a service, so I know the ins and outs of the charges and whatnot. So, you know, you'll see on here some of my potential concerns because an implementation of a system like this isn't just a flip of a switch. There's a lot of concerns on here, but David Robert has confidently assured me that this is a walk in the park for him, and he's going to handle it. So I feel confident David, with his technical experience, can launch and implement this successfully. And this company is very reputable. They obviously have implemented hundreds of towns across the country, including Portsmouth and Middletown, just very recently. Middletown just went live last week, so their website just got updated last week.
And that may be why you don't like it as much. It's not as
No, I said I don't like the Portsmouth one. I like the Middletown one.
Oh, you like the Middletown one. Go figure.
Councilor Camino.
Yes, so, looking at your report here, Councilor Hayden, looking at your report, you have 2 key strengths, and then you have 8 potential concerns. So, can you, I mean, it's kind of a lot of concerns for
Yeah, I mean, there's, as you can see here, it's 18 to 32 week implementation. It's not just a flip of a switch. They're gonna need to create a DPW department submenu, clerk submenu, all the different departments. We have a fire department submenu, a police,
I get it, but
all
your
of our
first,
departments
your
are
first
gonna be on there.
concern is cost and budget.
Well, yeah, $137,000 is a lot, but it's for 5 years. It's a lot for a website.
Councilor Camino, if I may, just the fact that we would be using gaming revenues, one-time funds, essentially locking in a 5-year contract. This is not a concern necessarily unless we want to re-up the contract at the end of 5. And then I believe in advance of that, we would probably renegotiate what that longer-term deal is.
Okay, so for instance, number 3, customization of limits. So pre-design, so we can only pick what they have, or we can design whatever we want?
I'll take it. So there's a block of what's called professional services hours included in the there's a one-time implementation cost, okay, and then there's an annual fee. The whole 137,000 or whatever is the cost to implement, stand up, and build it with their team, and the annual maintenance each year. That includes everything, all our costs. There's not going to be any other costs unless we decide we want to add a new module or a new feature or something that is not in the current scope of the proposal that we have in front of us.
Okay. And just one question for the administrator. Is this going to add a lot of workload to Mr. Roberts?
So how the website works, and just a couple points of clarification. I spoke with the vendor. They're looking at 6 to 8 months. So I'd like to think, if approved, that we'd have this up and running by the fall. Another subsection of this is also police, fire, town hall, and recreation. So, and it would also take and merge all of the current websites and bring them in. So the purpose of the website is to kind of act like a hub. So, and bring in all current websites, and there'd be no mandate from any, like the library or anyone else, to reform any websites. We would give them space on our website or the town's website.
So there you would also have some savings in their budgets.
And there are, even with ours, and I know other departments definitely have websites, that this would pay for it all over the next 5 years as well. Yes, ma'am.
Councilor Janik.
Is it user-friendly?
Yes.
Yes.
2 clicks, Deb. You're going to love it.
Because right now, for anybody to find anything,
It's terrible.
ourselves included, you're going into 5 different ways, and people are saying, I didn't see it,
Yep.
but it was there. But you had to go into this and into that, and
No, you're
Like,
you're
people-
going to be wild with it. It's 2 clicks. I did a demo with them, and I'm like, so you could be driving down Booker Marsh Road. There's a pothole. You can take a picture of it on your phone and upload it. It goes right to Mr. Rick Rogers, right to that department. Boom. 2 clicks, you're wherever you need to go. And here, John has the actual Middletown example of the website up here. But I don't want you all to think we're spending $137 on a website. This isn't just a GoDaddy, makeshift website. This is a municipal platform. It is going to be like our base for our back end for our town. It's more than just www.
I just spent an hour and a half this weekend trying to find the PDP on our
Right, I
website.
know.
Wow.
It was unbelievably difficult.
If I
I've
could
called
just-
3 people and finally got the answer I need. Somebody sent me the link, and it was much easier.
yeah.
So if I could just add one thing, because Chair Gilfillan's here, I know Recreation does currently pay for their own website, and they are locked into a contract. So at what point, Chair, does that expire? By all means. Because I know that there's, I think you said approximately $5,000 a year is what we're spending.
So there's 2 different things. It's Stu Gilfillan, Recreation Commission Chair. There's a website that Recreation manages, and then there's also a software as a service that we utilize. So the software as a service is on an annual contract, so that concludes, I think, somewhere mid-summer or later, just sort of within the budget cycle. So that could definitely, we could deviate out of that. My question would be is with regards to CivicPlus, the functionality for it beyond just the administrative tasks for the town clerk's office. There's a whole suite of resources in there that are recreationally centric. And I'm going to sound very narcissistic here for my committee because I need to. We did look at that, and I'm curious if anybody else in this particular dais has taken a look at the interface for the committees and what they would need relative to it. And within that, I'll also say, how is this expected to interface, if at all, with the permitting system and also the library system? Because the library has a whole separate reservation system. So if we're looking at trying to be more efficient, and I applaud you for it, perhaps it makes sense to take a look at a centralized system for all of these different platforms rather than still maintaining separate ones. So that would be sort of my plea here.
Yeah, I would say there is a lot of functionality for the committees in there. I know that we did not,
Yeah, we can definitely look at it. I know CivicPlus owns like MuniCode. So a lot of what we're already utilizing now, it's like CivicPlus has 4 or 5, probably more like a dozen different solutions, and MuniCode is one of them. And then we get into ClerkBase and other agenda type of postings. So, and to the counselor's point, there's tons of website vendors out there. We went with CivicPlus because they're prolific. They've been used throughout Rhode Island, and given what little technology that we do have that's working, it would interface with that. Is there other opportunities that we can go back with? And the council could authorize me tonight to sign the contract with the understanding that the technology upgrade fee is a no-go, and they could say no. And that's a possibility. But if the council wants to wait, or we want to explore other options, I'm open to exploring other options. The only person I'm married to is my wife, so we don't have to worry about the website.
Mr. Administrator, I'd just like to add too that for better or for worse, my cousin Sean is the administrator in Middletown. So I did take the opportunity to run some of these numbers by him, and he said that they were directly in line with what Middletown was paying, at least for the initial 5-year period. So personally, knowing how diligent Administrator Brown is, I think that that's a good vote of confidence.
Did they have the technological fee?
No, they said that our numbers look almost the same as theirs with what was proposed here. And if you look at the initial 5-year period, there is no 5% technology uplift fee. So my opinion, I think by signing this and doing a 5-year commitment, it doesn't necessarily commit us to year 6. And I think that leaves us open for, if they're unwilling to waiver on that part, then hey, we negotiate that when we get down the line. So anyway, I have a motion and we have a second by Councilor Perry. Is there any further discussion?
No, well, just to clarify that the motion is to the full 138, not the 40 initially.
That's right, that's my question, so
There
I'm
you
not
go.
sure that's
Yeah.
clear. What's
The
the
full
total
138.
number, 138?
Yep, as outlined in the write-up that we have here.
So when we redo it, motion to approve $138,000 pending they remove the technology uplift.
Well, it's 2 motions. You're gonna authorize him to sign it pending they agree to remove that.
Yep.
And you're requesting that he prepare a resolution so you can actually take out the money from the casino gaming.
Correct. That was the singular motion.
Yeah.
Those 2 items. Correct.
Correct.
Question.
Councilor Janik.
Would we be paying that whole 138?
One shot.
One shot? Do
So-
we get a deal on that?
Yeah, the price was like 200-something thousand, and the numbers were kind of different each year. It was 24, 25. We said we just want one number, the same in every year. It'd be easier for budgeting purposes, and we'd love to pay you upfront. We were able to get a 15% discount on the annual maintenance, so it brought it down like $3 or $4 grand per year. And then we're able to get a one-time discount on the one-time stand-up fee and implementation of, I don't know, it was like 25 grand or something. I forget the exact number. It came from 70 to 30 or 40. So it was a sizable discount, and that was for offering a 5-year commitment and paying up front. They were able to get us a better deal.
Okay. Motion's made, seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? None opposed. All right.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is myself, discussion and possible vote regarding the FY26 budget, including police, fire, and DPW departments. We actually do not have that number in front of us, but we will be getting those items, and I am going to have this just serve as notification that those departments will be sent to you. The administrator has assured me he will also send those preliminary numbers to the budget committee, and then we will address this on the 310 agenda. So next item is discussion and possible vote regarding employee/volunteer appreciation day. Looking for a motion to authorize the administrator to select that day, applicable rain dates, And I believe the administrator would like that sometime in May, but I think we leave that up to his discretion.
A motion to authorize the administrator to come up with a day for, is it employee?
Yep, employee appreciation
Employee
and volunteers.
Volunteer Appreciation Day.
Second.
Motion made second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Oh, Counselor Comito, you had a discussion item. Go.
I just want to make sure what kind of food trucks are we gonna get?
Oh, come on.
What kind of food trucks do you want, Counselor?
I know a few, so I'll help you out.
I appreciate that, sir.
Thank you.
So long as they have a MFV license.
All right, so motion made and seconded, all in favor? Counselor Perry. All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is discussion and possible vote regarding council calendar change for the month of April. So this is brought by me. I would like to move both the 14th and the 28th dates up 1 week. One due to work commitments, and then two because on April 14th, that's actually school vacation week, so I would be unable to be present for that. So that moves it to the 7th, and it would be the 21st. Do you need an official motion from me, or? Okay, so I will make that motion to adjust the calendar for April 14th to move to April 7th, and April 28th to move to April 21st.
I uphold the motion.
Actually,
It's Easter
one
weekend.
question is the 21st, that doesn't fall on Easter, right?
It's Easter's Monday, though.
The Monday.
The Monday. So we would have to, well, don't we have that offer? No, that's Good Friday. Okay. All right, that's perfect. Motion been made and second. Any further discussion? Counselor Perry, he's, all right, all in favor? Okay, we'll adjust the calendar. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is discussion and possible vote to approve Council Resolution 2025-0007 in support of House Bill 2025 H5453. Looking for a motion to approve this resolution, and for those at home, this is a bill that was put in by Representative Edwards, which would involve the dissolution of CRMC. So,
Can you repeat that?
yeah, so
It'll what?
this bill, if effective, would dissolve CRMC and fold them back into DEM.
So CRMC would now become Division of Coastal Resources Management.
It would be overseen by DEM, so there wouldn't be an independent entity. As I believe the quote from my father was, the adults will be making the decisions as it relates to CRMC's governance.
Is that how they used to be?
Yes.
And then they were pulled out?
So, do I have a motion in support of the resolution?
Motion to support Town of Tiverton Resolution Number 2025-0007, Resolution Assembly in support of House Bill 5453.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further
Discussion.
discussion? Counselor Hayden.
I don't understand this. What's the pros and the cons here of this here? Help me
Sure.
make a decision.
So a
on
little
how
bit
I
of
should vote.
backstory. CRMC is kind of their own entity. They do their own thing. They have carte blanche to enforce anything, so they can come into your backyard, flag some wetlands, and say, congrats, you can't do what you want to do there anymore. More recently, CRMC has been involved.
That's a little bit of an exaggeration,
Ah, a little-
the jurisdiction is 200 feet from any body of water, so, yeah, so, just so you know. It's not they can come to your backyard. He lives on the water, of course they can come to his backyard. It's 200 feet.
They have control of, like, if somebody's building a house or changing that deck or doing something.
A
on the
dock.
waterfront, A
Yeah.
dock.
Within 200 feet of any coastal water.
Yeah, I get what they do, but this is putting it back in the hands of.
DEM, where it should be regulated. And for instance, there was a bill passed that would prevent the creation of aquaculture facilities inside of the Semiquincentennial recreation area. CRMC still hasn't done anything with it. They're still holding a case officer out there. They're still, proceeding as though that's proceeding as though that's a possibility. So the elimination of CRMC would be beneficial for not just Tiverton, but I believe also Johnston, East Greenwich. There's a number of other communities that have had their issues with this organization.
Thank you for that explanation.
You're welcome. So motion made, seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Okay, motion carries. Now, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session. Council President Edwards, Rhode Island General Law 42465A2, discussion and possible vote on potential legal action by the town to prevent the Tiverton School Committee or Tiverton School Department from expending funds for a third party to conduct a search for a new superintendent of schools. Such legal action may include emergency and permanent injunctive relief. And interim town administrator, Rhode Island General Laws 42465A5, discussion and possible vote on the disposition of publicly held property and lots in the Tiverton Industrial Park related to purchase and sale and future purchase option agreement. Motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Counselor, seconded. Counselor Comito?
Yes.
Counselor Hayden?
Yes.
Counselor Janik?
Yes.
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 All right, we are now in closed executive session.